I could make a pretty easy legal argument with the divorce rate about 53% that it is definitely negligent, possibly reckless to get married. How many people stay together miserable? 73% of them. Like, that's insane. If I said there's a 73% chance we walk out of here today, you're getting hit in the head with a bowling ball. Like, you would never, willy-nilly go for it.
James Sexton is one of the best divorce attorneys in the world. He has the keys to why people stay married, why people stay happy, and what will 100% lead to you getting divorced, whether you want it or not. This episode is going to shock you, and it is going to teach you the things that they should have taught us before we said, I do. You said affairs almost never start with sex. What do they actually start with?
I think they start the way relationships start, which is you're interested and you're interested. I've represented the cheated on, and I've represented the cheater. The two biggest problems are we don't know what we want, and we don't know how to express it to another person. But when's the last time that you said to your partner, what are some things I do that make you feel loved? There's something to be said for kind words and because I don't know which comes first, but I'll tell you right now, you do one, you'll probably get the other more often.
What are the first signs that a marriage is going sideways and it's going to end in your office?
What I would say are the red flags that a relationship is not likely to continue successfully.
I don't know if these numbers are right, but if they are, this is insane. It says you've handled 2,000 plus divorces. Is that right?
Yeah, easily. It's 25 years, almost 26 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
You get hundreds of millions of views on divorce. Your work also, interestingly to me, goes way beyond divorce. It's about almost the wake-up calls people need to hear before they get divorced. So given all you've seen and all this breakup, is marriage still a good idea?
I think so. I tell people marriage is like the lottery. You're probably not going to win. But if you win, what you win is so good that, why not buy a ticket? I think, and the difference is that lottery, you can't really do much to increase your chances of winning the lottery. It's a game of chance. But marriage, there's a lot you could do to make it work. And when you meet the overwhelming majority of people are bad at marriage. Marriage, you could make an argument, and this is why lawyers don't get invited to parties very often. You could make an argument that marriage is negligent. Negligence is defined as any activity where you fail to perceive a substantial and unjustifiable risk of serious harm. Okay, that's the dictionary definition of negligence. Recklessness is a conscious disregard for a substantial, unjustifiable risk of harm. So I could make a pretty easy legal argument with the divorce rate about 53% that it is definitely negligent, possibly reckless to get married. And keep in mind, that's 53% end in divorce. How many people stay together miserable for the kids, for religious reasons? They don't want to give away half their shit, whatever it might be. Another 10%, I'm being nice, maybe 20. Yeah. Now you got a technology fails 73% of it. That's insane. That's insane. If I said there's a 73% chance we walk out of here today, you're going to hit in the head with a bowling ball, you would stay in, or you'd wear a helmet at a minimum, right? You would never just, willy-nilly go for it. But yet, we're actually not only super into marriage still as a culture, there's a presumption you should do it.
Yeah.
If one of your friends came to you and said, I'm getting married, and you said, really, why? That would be the most indelicate, unpleasant question, right? But realistically, it's a fairly, we're really happy, we want to get the government involved. That's a very odd thing for a person to say, but you're not allowed to even question it because sort of the wedding industrial complex and, there's just this theory, it's just a tradition now. And I've said before that, to some degree, tradition is the wisdom of the people who were here before us. And to some degree, tradition is peer pressure exerted by dead people. And I think that, when you say well, why are you getting married? Well, because you're supposed to. Well, why? Well, my parents were married. My grandparents were married. Okay, but your grandmother didn't have the sum total of all human wisdom in a digital device in her hand. The world she lived in was very different. So why would a technology that worked for her necessarily make sense for you? So, marriage is just shockingly challenging at a minimum. I still think it's a good idea because the other statistic I find equally, if not more interesting, is that 86% of people remarry within 5 years of their divorce.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. And I've watched so many people do it and do it quite successfully. Sometimes because I think that they bring, I think second marriage energy is a different thing. I think it's like, okay, I've figured out what I don't want. And I've seen and made some mistakes. And now I know what not to do, hopefully. And failure is a phenomenal teacher in that regard. And I think that people who have been through it, they kind of go, okay, like I'm not quite as afraid anymore because I've had this happen. You know, it's like when you've had a failed business, it's unfortunate, but it's also, there's a freedom of like, okay, I failed and I'm still alive.
Didn't die.
Like I'm still here. I didn't die. So you know what? Let me ante up again. Let's do this. And let me let me take the lessons and do something with it. So I think that marriage is still something that's incredibly important to us as a species. And I think there has to be some greater reason for that, you know?
Yeah. What about, can you tell after all of these divorces and being around all of these people who are unhappily married, if you look at a couple, can you tell if they are moving towards divorce or not? And if so, how, why, what are the signs? You know,
I've been told I have good, we don't know what to call it yet, you know, like I have good gaydar because I live in Chelsea and I can kind of be like, oh, maybe he is. But I don't know what the divorce equivalent of gaydar would be, where I can just sort of like smell I used to be very good at it on watching the Real Housewives shows on Bravo. I would be like, oh, they're done. Oh, yeah, they're on their way out. And some of their divorces I've actually done. I've represented a couple of them. That's public knowledge. But yeah, I mean, I think that I can, when I spend time with a couple, I definitely have a radar for the habits, the ways they interact with each other, and a sensitivity to it. I think we actually all do probably, but I think that my sensitivity to it is much higher because I spend so much time with people who are in that level of conflict to the point where it's so irretractable that now they're getting divorced. Like a couples counselor probably would spend time with people that are in marital challenge but might find their way to navigate out of it. I am the look, it's dead and I'm here to bury it person. So.
And what do they typically look like? Like, what are the first signs that a marriage is going sideways and it's going to end in your office?
Yeah. You know, my mom used to say to me that it's hard to spot intelligence, but you can spot stupid a mile away. And so maybe intelligence is like an absence of stupid, right? So I think a lot of what I would say are the red flags that a relationship is not likely to continue successfully are an absence of things rather than a presence, right? Yeah. So like one of the things that's present in almost all the happy couples I know is this sense of like cheering for each other. You know, this sense of like, you're interested, you're interesting, and I'm cheering for you. When you have that, it's a superpower of sorts. And the absence of it or the opposite of it, we've all been to the dinner party where like whatever he says, she's rolling her eyes at. And whatever she says, he's like not even really listening. And he's kind of like, wait, what? Like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know, and it's just a vibe. It's a feeling. It's
and
that
they think
sense
it looks
of like
cool.
Yeah. Well, you know, the zeitgeist has told people it's cool. Yeah. Like I don't know what that's about, but like, you know, this is something that as a man and a woman, we probably experience a little differently. But like you go out with a group of men and if a guy is like, dude, my wife's like the coolest, man. Like it's sort of like, well, what is with this guy? Whereas if the guy is like, my wife's like the most loathsome harpy ever to castrate a man, you know, they're like, yeah, I know, man. That's how they are. And women, it's the same thing. Like if you say like, oh, my husband's just so great, you know, it's kind of, maybe it's a little more acceptable. But if you do the like, you know, man, they're just so stupid. It's like, amen, sister, you know, and that's, we've really been taught to this, like have this battle, you know, and see it that way. And look, for whatever reason, you know, the battle of the sexes and the sort of girls versus boys thing, I get there's a bonding element to that or whatever. But like if you're saying there are 8 billion people in the world and you're the one, like I want you. Like, I want you to hold my hand and let's figure this thing out. Let's walk together. Let's see each other's blind spots. Let's like try to just cheer for each other, help each other. Like to me, the goal of marriage should be that at the end of your life, you could say, this person helped me be the most authentic version of myself. And I helped them do the same thing. Like, what could be more worthy of a pursuit than that? Like, what could be a greater asset to have than that? But for most people, I don't know that that's the goal. There's this sense of like, yeah, like this is my person. Like I picked them. I don't know if I'd pick them again if I had it to do over again. Like, and that's when you feel that around people, that rolling of the eyes. But one of the things I think is really fun to do is when you're out, with a group of couples or whatever, and someone's got that vibe of like, oh, you can tell they had a fight in the car on the way there, or they have that sort of like rolling their eyes at each other. If you go, so how'd you guys meet? Yeah. Tell me about how you met. There's a softening that happens that is fascinating to me because people kind of go back in their head to like when they were trying to close the deal, and when it still was something they were aspiring to, was to be this person's person. And they go back there in their mind for a minute, and there's something that shifts. So for me, the long answer to that question is when I feel like people have lost that plot completely, they've stopped trying to close, they've lost sight of the fact that like this is their person. And, constructive criticism is important in any relationship, but it's still criticism. Like, and it never feels good to be criticized. And obviously, as someone who has a lot of management experience, that, there are ways to modify the behaviors of people around you that don't require direct criticism, even constructive criticism. Like praising the behavior that you're trying to facilitate is the way to do it. And in marriage, that's incredibly easy. It's incredibly easy because you have all these levers. You have affection, sex, romance. You have all of these things that you can weaponize in a good way to modify the behavior of this person and help improve the dynamic without them feeling criticized. So to me, when I see criticism, that to me is the biggest red flag.
That's so good. My husband actually was the one who taught me. He taught me that wasn't cool to even make jokes about your partner in front of other people. Yeah. And he was like, it's just a disrespectful thing. We don't do that in front of other people. Yeah. And I had really, my parents have been married forever. They're very happily married still. Yeah. They're incredible partners. But that was okay in their marriage. They could have a little... But when I saw it, I thought, actually, it is kind of disrespectful. And, Chris and I, it's us against the world. And don't get me wrong, we fight. But I love how you say healthy couples fight. They just fight fairly. Yeah. And so
it's no low blows. It's no like the weaponization of intimacy to me is the scariest thing in the world because it's so brave to love someone. Like it's so brave, like to go, I'm going to show you all of these soft spots. Like, you marry a Navy SEAL, he's got soft spots. I guarantee it, and maybe he doesn't show them to anybody, but he's got to be able to show them to you. And if when someone makes you the keeper of that, if you ever use that to like weaponize, like anyone who's ever been in a relationship for more than a month, you have a sentence, like you keep it in the chamber, hopefully forever. But you have a sentence you could say to your partner that would literally reduce them to tears. Like we all do. We all do. Like you have it with your friends. You have it. Anyone you know really well, you're like, I know what would crush them. And as a divorce lawyer, like I see what happens when people unleash that kraken, and you can't take it back. You can't take it back. And those little indignities, those little jabs, those little, like people's relationships fall apart the way people go bankrupt, very slowly and then all at once. Yeah. And how companies fail, very slowly and then all at once. And relationships the same thing. It's like very slowly and then you just go right off the cliff.
Oof. I loved how you talked about why people shouldn't talk badly about their spouses. And you also had this story about a dog that my husband and I were watching last night. Yeah. And we were sort of laughing about it and saying like, I think one of the interesting things about you and why I wanted you to come talk to our people is I've been through a divorce and it was terrible. Yeah. And it wasn't his fault entirely and it wasn't my fault entirely. We were two super flawed people that just couldn't figure it out. And if I don't have very many regrets in life, but that one's damn near close. Just like getting there, having that presupposition that we have to get married and I just should marry a person because there are these boxes that it fit into. And I take that on my shoulders. Like, I think that was my fault for even saying yes fully, and I was the one that wanted to leave. And so I'm always like, man, if I could go to young Codie and say a few things differently, it would be a lot of the stuff that you talk about. And it's weird that I would talk to young Codie about a divorce attorney. That's not like my immediate thought. It's like maybe a fucking counselor, a priest. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you have this story about how a dog has a lot in common with how a good relationship is today and how we're kind of fucked up in the way we think about relationships. Will you share it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a dog person, so I've always had
Me
dogs.
too.
And I think they teach us a lot about love, because if I've learned anything from my dogs, it's how absolutely insane it is to love anything. And I think part of it really is the acknowledgement, because they have this incredibly short lifespan, we know that a dog is not gifted to us permanently. It's loaned. Like, we're going to have it for this little period of time. And I think there's something about when someone says it's going to be you and me forever, that there's a very human part to go, whew, great. All right, got that done now. I can focus on some other things, because there's no shortage of things to focus on. But really, like, love is loaned. Like, your husband's love is loaned to you and your love is loaned to him. It's not permanently gifted. And your marriage will end. Every marriage ends. It ends in death or divorce. It's weird because it's one of those things you go, I really hope yours ends in death. Like, what a weird thing to say out loud. But the truth is, like, your marriage will end. And you want it to end in death. You want it to end way down the road in death. But more likely than not, marriages end in divorce. But there is something about the love we have for a dog, the love we have for our pets, that I think knows that this is not going to be here forever, and that we should be really enjoying it and really focusing on it and really being selfless in our love of it. And also, too, there's something about the way, I mean, dogs just are always cheering for us, Like, there's an old joke, like, if you want to know who loves you more, lock your spouse and your dog in the trunk of the car, open it up a half hour later and see which one's happy to see you.
My father-in-law told me that joke before we got married.
Yeah,
so,
it's a fair joke, But I really do think that we learn a lot about ourselves and about love and about loss by having pets. I think that for me, I've learned a lot about love from having a dog, and also from my heart's infinite capacity for love. Because every time I go, I'm never doing that again, I could never love any dog the way I love Buster. I could never love any dog the way I love Huckleberry. There's no way I could love. And then somehow I do. Like, and it doesn't take anything away from how much I loved them to have this new additional love in my life. But it reminds me that, that we have this infinite capacity for love, and that it's incredibly brave. Like, it's incredibly brave to love something. It's incredibly brave, because to love anything is to accept the fact that you will inevitably lose it. And so acknowledging that I'm going to hold on to this thing that I can never hold on to forever, and I'm going to open myself up to it, and I'm going to let it become part of me, I think is the bravest thing a person can do. And I think, if you're not scared, it's not brave. Like, I'm sure your husband and any of everyone he's ever served with, like, I'm sure they've all been scared.
Of course.
And that's what makes them brave.
100%.
Is that they're scared and they do the thing that needs to be done anyway. And I think love should be approached that way.
Why do you think that you're not more jaded, having seen all these divorces? I mean, I've met a lot of attorneys. And we talked about this a little bit beforehand, but, you seem to be a tough guy, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, tattoos, divorce attorney, some of the biggest divorces in the world you've done. But you also seem really kind and very open-hearted. How did you keep that?
I blame my mom. She was like, I was the perfect amalgam of my two parents. My father was a Annapolis Vietnam veteran, like really hard, really rigid man. My mom was like left wing, so far left, it was like the leftist you could ever be, and progressive liberal and a total hippie. So I guess I had to become a lawyer because I had to see both sides of every argument always. They never voted for the same person, but they really loved each other. They were married over 50 years till my mom passed away. My mom passed away 10 years ago today.
I'm so sorry.
And no, she lived an amazing life. She was an amazing person. And I think a lot of it came from her. There's a line from a Joseph Brodsky poem. It's one of my favorite poems. It's called A Song. He wrote it when his wife died. And the refrain of the poem is, I wish you were here, dear, I wish you were here. And one of the lines is, I wish you were here, dear, I wish you were here. I wish I knew no astronomy when the stars appear. And there's something to me about when you watch how fragile love is and you watch so many people lose it, and you feel and you sit across the table from people who are in so much pain because they had it and they had this path and this plan and they were certain, and then it's gone. Sometimes they screwed it up. Sometimes it's through no fault of their own. Their spouse just came home and said, and there's something about when you were around that all the time that you realize like how beautiful and fragile love is. Like, because it is the greatest, I mean, anyone, like people have said to me like, oh, how do you believe in love still? And I'm like, that's like saying like, do you believe in gravity? Like gravity is there whether I believe in it or not. Like love is, of course I believe in love. Love's everywhere. Love's the only thing. Like all this other stuff we're doing, why are we doing it? We're doing it because we want love. We want to feel worthy of love. We want to care for the people we love. We want to have some level of safety, security, and control for the people we love or for ourselves so we can continue to enjoy time with the people we love. It all comes back to love. Like all of it comes back to love. So watching the fragility of love, watching the quote unquote failure of love has not made me less of a romantic. It's not made me less. It makes me more humbled by this vital, beautiful, fragile thing. And even though I know the astronomy, I still think the stars are beautiful. Like, I don't think that knowing that love can go horribly wrong has ever for a moment shaken my faith in how important it is and how beautiful it is. Because even as a divorced person myself, even as someone who has had love and seen that love end in the way I didn't expect it to end, like I am a better person for every one of those loves. And even when you say like, oh, you know, I look back at young Codie and I kind of want to say to her like, oh, maybe this is the wrong, like, you would never be who you are if you hadn't that experience. And you would not have the marriage you have now if you hadn't had that experience. And even if the lesson of that experience was to show you, okay, that isn't what I need. So I need to find something different than that in some ways. Like, and that's where I think there's so much overlap in my relationship on perspective and a lot of the things you do in terms of business and entrepreneurship is it's a lot about, you know, can people take the same ingredients and make a different meal with it, you know? Yeah. And we all know the answer is yes. Like, we all know, like, you can take the same people in a business and restructure it and change the way they interact with each other as manager and employee. And you can make an entirely new business with the exact same ingredients. You could give Thomas Keller or, you know, any amazing, you know, Michelin star chef the same ingredients as me, and they're going to make something incredible out of it because they have this technique and ability. So I think it's the same thing. Like, I think that the ingredients of who we are, when paired with other different ingredients, we can make something radically different. Or even in a relationship that's struggling, we can take those same ingredients and figure out ways to make something different with it.
Here's something nobody tells you. When I buy businesses, I don't just look at the cash flow. I look at how fast I can make them look credible online. Why? Because perception creates opportunity. Customers, lenders, even sellers judge you by your digital footprint before they ever shake your hand. That's why I like GoDaddy Aero. You plug in what you're building, and it instantly spins up a professional website, logo, email, even social posts. In other words, it gives you instant credibility. And credibility is currency. I've turned invisible businesses into deal-ready, customer-ready plays just by tightening their online presence. That's leverage. That's how you win. So if you want to look like you belong in the owner's seat from day one, go to GoDaddy.com/Codie Sanchez and launch with GoDaddy Aero today. Okay, I want to talk about a couple of different things you said. Like, one of the lines that I love is you said, people say they fell out of love. No, they stopped doing the things that kept love alive. Yeah. Can you expand on that?
I think the biggest problem in relationships is that we just stop paying attention. Yeah. Like, we just stop paying attention. And there's there's all these little tiny things when you first fall in love with someone that they do that you absolutely love and that make you feel loved, and that you do for them and that probably make them feel loved. But like, when's the last time, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but when's the last time that you said to your partner or your spouse, hey, what are some things I do that make you feel loved? Or when's the last time you said, hey, you know when you get that, when you see that I'm out of that sparkling water that I like and you just like buy a case of it when you're out at the store, that makes me feel so seen and so loved. Like, we kind of don't do that. Like, we just don't do it. It's sort of like, oh yeah, like, you know, this person's with me now. Like, they're legally obliged to be here. Like, I don't have to do all that anymore. And it's absolutely true. Like, you don't. Like, but there's so many things when you first meet someone and you're kind of trying to close the deal. You know, it's like the job interview. At the interview and the first week of work, like everything is new and fascinating and wonderful. And it's like, oh my God, they do this. And I'm just so glad to have the job. Like, this is so great. Like, I'm so tired of sending resumes. Like, I got the job. And like 4 months in, you're like, oh, you know, I mean, well, it's the same job, but your perception of how special it is and how lucky you are to have it has now been completely jaded by the fact that you have it. And so I think in relationships, we stop paying attention. And when we stop paying attention, you know, no single raindrop is responsible for the flood, but the flood is just a bunch of little raindrops. And so people always, when they're talking about marriages ending, they're like, oh, you know, and I get this a lot, like, because not everybody interviews with the level of nuance you do. They'll say, like, what are 4 things that people can do to save their marriage? And you're like, okay, or what are the main 3 reasons why marriages end, you know? And I'm always tempted to say like a snarky answer when they're like, what's the number 1 reason people get divorced? I'm like, well, because they don't want to be married anymore. You know, like, you know, that, but really what they want me to say is infidelity, you know, or financial impropriety, or, but those are symptoms. Like, infidelity is a symptom of the problem. The problem is almost always the same: disconnection. Disconnection from self, and then disconnection from the other person. Because the 2 biggest problems are we don't know what we want and we don't know how to express it to another person. And the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves. I mean, I think in both of our lines of work, we know that like the most dangerous lies are the things you tell yourself. Oh, no, well, no. We're going to next quarter, we're going to turn this thing around. Like, the lies you tell yourself are so dangerous in marriage because you can't possibly identify what it is you need, what your partner needs, how you're meeting it, how your needs are not getting met. If you're not having an honest conversation with yourself, and then ideally with your partner in some fashion.
Yeah, you know, it's fascinating because one of the things Chris is really good at is he will tell me frequently, like, we have to have the difficult conversations that most people want to push aside, because if we don't, they're a little bit like a festering wound, right? You just let it like rot away at the edges. And so sure, it is about, I don't know, trash left on the countertop, but it's not really about that. There's like something deeper.
But see, trash left on the countertop is a great example. Because trash left, like, it's not about the pasta. Like, trash left on the countertop is not about trash left on the countertop. It's about, why are you not respecting our space? Yeah, exactly. It's about, why do you not know that kind of bothers me? And if you do know it and you do it anyway, why is my feeling not important to you? Like, so that's kind of everything, you know? Like, how you do anything is how you do everything. And the passion with which you do it. Because if you think about it, that actually can be equally leveraged as a sign of love. Because if he doesn't mind having the thing on the counter and he knows you do, and he moves it off the counter, then he's saying, I love you. Like, that's what that is. Like, he's saying, best example I have is throw pillows. Like, I would never have a throw pillow in my whole life.
What is
like,
it with
what
us
man would be
I
like
don't
throw
know.
pillows? Like, we just don't.
Just love
but
'em.
but women love them. And so I really could tell I was in love when I was like, oh yeah, I should straighten the throw pillows up, you know? Because it was like, it's in no way important to me. But I'd love to believe that my partner would see that and go, he doesn't give a shit about throw pillows. Like, he likes me. Because that's what that is. Like, that's what that is. Like, that's a sign of love. And to me, we never say, like we rarely say these things out loud. Like we rarely say to our partner, these dumb little things you do that make me feel seen and loved and cared for. And these dumb little things you do that make me feel not valued and not cared for and kind of dismissed or ignored. But I feel like that's the stuff. And if we could isolate on that stuff and find ways to have discussions about that stuff that aren't going to bring out defensiveness in our partner, or we find ways to like engage in what I call loving behavior modification. You know, the best example I give of that is I dated, I'm a lawyer by trade, so I have to do I always have to be clean shaven. Like your husband gets to have the cool beard, you know, or
but
he gets
couldn't for like 15 years.
Oh yeah.
So that was,
now it's like he's bouncing
now
back.
He's like, fuck you.
Or like Chris,
beard.
Williamson has the oops, I didn't know I was sexy stubble. Which is like, Chris is going to think I'm like man crushing on him now. But like,
He's
it really,
like it.
Yeah, if I was gonna, he'd be a good man crush. But the truth is I have to be clean shaven. And I have one of those thick beards that so on the weekends I tend not to shave because it's I have 2 days off from shaving. I don't have to go to court. It's good. It's just you're never going to get me in a suit on the weekend. If someone invites me to a wedding on the weekend, I'm like, I'm not wearing a suit. It's not happening. I wear a suit 5 days a week. So I remember dating a girl and she had really sensitive skin. And so when I would kiss her, and I was a little stubbly, like I'd be on the weekend, she would get a little redness, y'all have sensitive skin.
Yeah.
And she would be like, oh, your beard is prickly. And it really brought out something defensive in me. And I was very I wouldn't say it, but I find myself thinking you should be happy that I'm kissing you. And now I got to shave when I'm going to see you and Monday through Friday. This is great. I've never no break from this whatsoever. Needless to say, that relationship didn't work out. Not solely for that reason, although maybe it was a symptom. The next woman I dated had the exact same issue, but she was a genius because I would shave. Usually it was on Monday morning if she spent the weekend or something. Monday morning, she would come in after I'd shaved and she'd be like, oh God, you're so sexy when you're clean shaven. And she would press up against my skin and she'd be like, you're like Don Draper in Mad Men. I love it, Dude, I would shave 3 times a day. I would, by the way, I was like a little kid. I would shave and then I would come downstairs and I'd be like, I just shaved, and she would be like, oh my God, I love it. Yeah. Now, she was doing the exact same thing. She was trying to get me to shave for her benefit, but she went about it brilliantly because I really felt this is something she likes about me. And this is an opportunity I have to become even more attractive to her and to have some praise from her. What was it? It was the exact same thing as behavior modification, but it was approached from this place of positive reinforcement, reframing what it is that you want. And to me, that's how in a successful marriage, you shape the behavior of your partner.
God, that's so good. I'm going to take this so literally because now when I want him to not have a beard, he can't listen to this podcast.
Yeah, you got to watch you got to watch old episodes of Mad Men and be like, you look so, remember when you were, oh God, that was so hot. Most guys will be like, really? Okay. If we're going to get laid from it, we usually will do it. We'll usually do what needs to be.
Yeah, you have said a few funny things about what men want.
Yeah.
And I think you had a funny answer that I liked to what the male version of flowers is.
Yeah, nudes. Yeah. Yeah, it was very funny because that was actually off the top of my head. Somebody said, what's the male equivalent of getting flowers? I was like, nudes. Oh, wait, was that too quick of an answer? Let me think about it for a minute. Nudes. Yeah. Well, because it really is we're visual. This is important, but it's that same, because what are flowers? It really isn't hey, something was alive and now we've killed it and you can put it in water. That's not in and of itself a particularly romantic gesture, but we've assigned something to it, which is I was thinking of you. I wanted to give you this gesture of my affection. It's really what it is. Well, for men, that's a tremendous gesture of affection because the old adage of every guy wants a good girl who's only bad for him, and every woman wants a bad boy who's only good for her.
So true. It's
and
every
really
romance.
Read every romance novel, and it's all that. It's always the hard, So, but with her, he's gentle, and come on, you're married to a seal for God's sake.
Yeah,
he
right
could kill people with a popsicle
right
stick, and meanwhile he's soft and gentle and lovely with you. That's the whole thing. That's every female fantasy right there.
Literally.
And guys, we really want someone someone who's like, oh, I've never been with a man and bodice ripping. It's like our thing. So look, if these are the archetypes of the collective romantic unconscious, okay, leverage it. Use it.
Use it.
I believe in living in reality, and that's reality. So yeah, I think nudes is the equivalent of flowers. I think I've never, ever heard of a man getting a nude from a woman he has a relationship with and going, oh, that is not appropriate right now. Like I've been in a courtroom and got one and went, because it's true. Like most heterosexual men, I'm really talking out of school here. I'm going to get kicked out of the bro club. But it is hard not to applaud when a woman takes her shirt off. It's hard not to. It feels like a bit like a kid at Christmas. Even if you've seen these same breasts a million times, you feel like a kid, oh my God, it's just what I wanted. Those, perfect. Look at those. And I don't know why. They don't really do anything. It's like the flowers. What do the flowers really do? They smell nice for a couple of days, then you got to throw them out. But it's something about it, something, that intoxication. If you can keep that, I think in relationships, that's the good stuff. Why would you let it go away? It's so low percentage of a move. To me, big investment with big risk. Okay, I get it. People are risk adverse. Or small investment with unlikely success. Okay, I get it. Maybe people don't want to, fail. But if you leave your partner a note in the morning, it was so fun hanging out with you on the couch last night. I married the prettiest girl in the world. Mm. What does that take? 10 seconds. 10 seconds. What did it cost? Nothing. But what does it do? It's just saying, I see you. You're important to me. I want you to feel seen. I want you to feel heard. And this downward spiral that everyone who ends up in my office at some point starts and then gracefully finishes in a chair in front of my desk. It starts with, well, why should I do that? He didn't do this.
Yeah.
Why should I sleep with him? He's nothing but unfriendly to me. Well, why should I be friendly to her? All she does is dismisses everything I say. And that's what I mean when I say, well, okay, you're both right. You don't owe each other anything. By the way, you don't even have to be married. So don't be married. But at some point you went, yep, 8 billion choices. That's the one I want. And so why wouldn't you water that plant? Why wouldn't you just take that? Because that spiral starts to work in the other direction. Even if you kind of lost the plot, you can get it back, but it's a little bit of a slow process. And the hard part is just getting back in shape when you've fallen out of shape. It's you don't go back into the gym for 4 hours and go, okay, this is great. You'll be so sore the next day, you'll never be able to move and it won't accomplish much. But do 20 minutes a day for a couple of days. Yeah. And you'll start to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's the same thing. Just start those little gestures and see if that reconnection starts to happen and it starts to feed the other person, inspire them into do. Because I'll tell you something, I feel like, and I haven't tested the theory, if you sent more flowers, you'd get more nudes. If you gave more nudes, you might get more flowers. I don't know which came first, the flowers or the nudes, the chicken or the egg. But I'm telling you, there's something to be said for this. There's something to be said for kind words and blowjobs. There's something to be said for it. Because I don't know which comes first, but I'll tell you right now, you do one, you'll probably get the other more often. So I feel like there's value in that. And it's the part we don't say out loud. We say dumb shit like, happy wife, happy life.
It's a terrible line.
It's a terrible line that everybody says at the wedding. The uncle who says it at the wedding, I should pay him a dividend. He's hey, he made a lot of money from me. But it really is. I mean, if anything, it should be happy spouse, happy house. Mm. But even that, if your meaning is, yeah, just do what they want you to do, just make them happy, whatever it is, no, that is not a recipe for success in this coupling that is supposed to be the paramount connection you have with another person.
But you know what is interesting is you talk a lot about infidelity and affairs. And a couple of the ways you talk about them were fascinating to me, which is you said affairs almost never start with sex.
Yeah.
What do they actually start with?
They start with attention. I think they start the way relationships start, which is you're interested and you're interesting.
Yeah.
which is something that very quickly can go away in marriage. Like, because you've heard each other's stories, you've heard each other's jokes, you kind of, you know each other, you know what to expect. That's, by the way, it's part of the joy of being married is it's like, oh, I know what this person's going to, like, I know what they think's funny and what they don't. And I kind of like, the world is so mysterious and challenging and we have so little control that like knowing someone's levers, like I know what makes them feel good, I know what makes them smile, I know what food they like. Like, that's a nice feeling. But there is something exciting about the mystery of another person and being interesting to someone. Because I don't think love is just about how I feel about you. It's how you and what you feel about me makes me feel about me, right? Yeah. Like there's something about when your partner looks at you like, wow, look at you, that you look at yourself like, yeah, look at me, And it's kind of like your grandma saying, like looking at the old version of herself and going, oh my God, look at how good you looked. Like, look at how good I looked. Like there's something about seeing yourself through the eyes of this person who sees you with desire and excitement and fascination. Like fascination, it's pretty hard to have fascination for someone you've been with for a decade and who like you've cleaned up their socks, like it's hard. Like no one's a hero to their butler, and so it really is about like, how do I still keep this sense of like excitement and fascination? Because an affair, it usually starts as some other kind of interaction. It starts as our kids are on the same softball team or and social media, by the way, like if we were going to invent an infidelity generating machine, it would be called Instagram.
Oh, wait, why?
Because it's putting us in touch with a bunch of people that we probably have no business really talking to. Yeah. It's giving us benign, neutral points of entry that we have no reason to feel guilty about at all. Because it's like, no, I'm talking to I added this person because our kids are on the same team or our kids are in the same, or we work together. But now I see you in a bikini. And I wasn't going to see you in a bikini before Instagram. That wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have seen you out with your girlfriends wearing something low cut. Like I wouldn't have started seeing you in this different setting as an object potentially of desire. And by the way, I don't know about your experience of social media, but mine is everyone's posting their greatest hits while we live our gag reel. And no one is in the height moments of their life, like when they're having a wonderful time, taking out their phone and scrolling through Instagram. So it's always when you're like bored or like on the toilet or like sitting and waiting in the waiting room at the doctor's office or on the subway. It's like some moment of kind of, And what are you doing in that moment? But looking at the most exciting, curated, perfect, filtered version of everyone else's life. So of course, your life in that moment sucks compared to that. So now I'm seeing this idealized, stylized version of this other person. And we have some interaction, and it's benign interaction. We can message each other and like, oh yeah, I see you guys. How was that? Where did you guys stay when you were in Greece? And then it's very easy to have like that little, because again, no one's watching. Like you're not posting it on the Facebook wall. These are DMs. So you're doing the like, like, wow, you look great, and it turns into, okay, now we're flirting, but we're just flirting. It's no big deal. And then that's how it starts, because it starts to feel really good. Like it feels really good. Because of who you feel like. Like you feel interesting again. You feel interested again. And that's what it's about. Like it's about that. It's not about the sex. Like it really isn't about the sex. Yes, of course, sex is an important piece of things. And sex, I think, is the glue in marriages. Otherwise, just be roommates. Yeah. But like sex is glue. And without that glue, like, you start to, there starts to be some distance from each other in terms of like, you are not the thing I align with sexuality. Same thing, pornography has the same effect for men. If like 90% of your sexual outlet is women on a screen you will never meet and not your primary sexual partner, you're going to have issues with that. It's one of the reasons why I've said, and again, I'm not trying to be like the proponent of nudes here, but if your spouse is the kind of person who's a very visual person and otherwise would be very into pornography, or you have to spend extended periods of time away from each other, having some nudes of your primary sexual partner and having them and looking at them as I don't think that that's a bad thing. Like you want to be the object of your partner's desire and you want to be the primary association they make with sexuality is you. So again, what happens in these other relationships? It starts with just an interested connection, a benign, safe connection, and then it just turns into something different.
It's probably why you're such a voice to this generation about marriage, because you're so straight talking. It's almost like we're not allowed to say these things
I know
anymore.
people say that about, they're always like, he's so blunt. He's so blunt.
And you're like, no, it's pretty actually
it seems
obvious
like really obvious.
and rational.
Yeah.
But we're just told that's politically incorrect. No, we just don't talk about those things anymore. And so because of that, we have all these narratives that really do not help us progress in
Well, I have a safe
marriage.
place that I can do it from, because in a world where it's very easy to get canceled, and where therapists come in or researchers come in and say, well, this is what my research has shown, or this is what I've studied. I'm just telling you who's sitting in front of me in the chair. Yeah. And like, you can't pretend they meant to be there. They didn't. And you can't be like, well, but you don't really know. No, I do. Like, people lie to their therapists all the time. They don't lie to their divorce lawyer. Like, there's absolutely no profit in lying to your divorce lawyer. If anything, you got to tell me all your stuff. And by the way, it's protected by attorney-client privilege. Like, I've never once told any client confidence in any public setting. Like, I take my oath as an attorney very seriously. I anonymize everything that I talk about publicly. And the truth is, like, yeah, but I get to see a really honest version of this. And people talk to me about, like, you get to know your divorce lawyer. Like, we have a really intimate relationship, and that you have to be really honest with me. And I get to know your finances and your kids and your parenting and your substance use issues and your mental health issues and your whole family history. So I get to know you really well. And in 25 years of getting to know people that well, like, you really see human emotional complexity. Because I've represented the cheated on. And I've represented the cheater. Mm-hmm. And I've represented victims of domestic violence and intimate partner abuse. And I've represented perpetrators of domestic violence and intimate partner abuse. And I have to tell you, you spend enough time with people and you figure out, like, okay, these are hurt people hurting people. And they did not set out to do that. Mm-hmm. And if only there were just evil people and we could just sequester them from the good people. But it's not true. Like, the line of good and evil runs right through the human heart. Mm. And none of us wants to cut a piece of our own heart out. Mm. And so when you spend time with people and start to realize, like, hey, like, horns and halos isn't really a thing. Like, people have moments. Like, I'm sure if I looked at the best moment of you as a wife, I would, and said, that's what kind of wife she is, I'm giving you way too much credit.
Way too much.
And if I look at the most impatient crap moment you've had as a spouse, where you just really missed it.
Not good.
And I said, that's who she is as a wife, I'm not giving you enough credit. The truth is, it's kind of about, like, ratios. It's kind of about how it works. And I think that's what I get to see, is when it's failed catastrophically. And that gives me the ability to just go, look, don't get mad at me. That's how it is.
You know, I feel like I know a lot about this because I watched your new favorite show, which is the Kardashians show about divorce attorneys.
How did you make it through the first episode of that fever dream of a show? I like everything Ryan Murphy has ever done. I'm such a devotee of every American Horror Story. That show made my eyes bleed.
I think you are missing the brilliance. The camp.
You know what?
The camp
That's a fact.
nature.
I am absolutely missing any scintilla of brilliance. I actually see it as a brilliance black hole. Like, it is the event horizon of brilliance. It's gone.
Watching you watch the vagina entryway part was just, that's peak
There's a line in the
me.
first episode where they say, Kim Kardashian's character says to one of the other people, come work with us. In 2 years, you'll be a multimillionaire. And I went, in divorce law? Like, in divorce, you think in 2 years you're going to be a multi-millionaire in divorce law? By the way, with offices like that. And she also, too, is like, Kim Kardashian's character is driving a Bentley, I'm sorry, are you in venture capital? Like, what are you in? Because divorce, like, listen, we're not wearing sackcloth and ashes. We're doing all right. But, like, there's only a certain number of hours in the day I can bill. And there's only so many, like, I'd have a bunch of lawyers working for me, but they're not me. So people eventually would go, where's Jim? I hired him. Like, if I'm going, no, I'm not your lawyer. I know you hired me, but here's Bob. He's going to be your lawyer. Like, people eventually get very mad about that. Like, if your therapist said, I'm not going to be your therapist this week, I have Steve. He's come in. He's going to do it. You'd be like, yeah, we're not doing that, you know?
No.
So I just don't know. Maybe they could have just spoken to like one actual divorce lawyer and made some aspect of it with the all-star amazing cast that they have.
I loved it so much.
I
I told
really
my, I
love
know, is that terrible? I'm a terrible person, but I
gotta leave. I'm
I
sorry.
know, I know.
I've never
You know
walked
what
off
my
of the show.
actual favorite
I feel like
part, and like I was like, I think I'm a Kim Kardashian stan now, like, which is not something young Cody would have said.
I got no beef with Kim Kardashian. I really don't.
Because you were her divorce attorney.
I really don't.
a
No,
few
I was
times?
not her divorce attorney. She's California. I think she had Laura. Laura Wasser's amazing and a beloved colleague and a super talent. No, I think that she's
amazing at outrage, though. I think she planned it all.
Maybe.
Like even her, she did this post that I was like, God, the internet fascinates me, like psychology of how people engage on the internet. And in the same way, like I find you fascinating because you seem to feed off of, when people get amped, you're like, nah, it doesn't fucking bother me.
Yeah.
And I think she's like that on the internet. When people get amped, she's like, oh,
well,
fucking
listen,
money.
that entire family has
You know?
figured out how to leverage, people's emotional state into something very profitable.
Yeah.
I
not for me.
don't want
can't do
to
it.
try to, be an armchair psychologist of Kim. But what I will say is I have a son who's 28 years old and he's a lawyer. And I'd never pushed him to be a lawyer. I really was find something you love as much as I love what I do. Because I'm blessed to be one of those rare people that does not spend 5 days a week looking forward to 2. Yeah. Like I can't wait to get back to work. I love it. And I get the feeling that because her father was a phenomenal attorney. Her father was an amazing attorney. I mean, he's legendary in the legal profession as his skill as a trial lawyer. Yeah, he's a criminal defense lawyer. But he was an incredibly gifted courtroom lawyer. Those are big, it's a big shadow that man casts. So my heart really goes out to her because I didn't know her father, but I can't imagine that he would not be incredibly proud of her. Yeah. Like she is such a successful business person. She's a mom. She's so many things so well. Yeah. But I think there is still this piece that goes, yeah, but I want to be a lawyer because it would be like something he'd be proud of. And so if that's what this comes from, is this desire to keep taking the bar and trying and da-da-da, I'm cheering for her. I'm cheering for her. I hope she pulls it out. But I don't think she needs to do it to have her father be proud of her. I think he's probably incredibly proud of her. I say that as a father.
I know. It goes back to your big heart. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was prenups. Speaking of famous people. Prenups. There was a video I saw where you gave Taylor Swift some advice pre-Travis Kelce, which was one word a lot of times repeated.
Yep. Taylor. Prenup Taylor.
Tell me, obviously, do you think everybody should get a prenup?
Yeah.
Everybody in the
I'll
world.
take it a step further. Everybody has a prenup. Everybody has a prenup. It's either one that the government wrote or it's one that you and the person that you've decided you like other than the 8 billion other options. Who do you think's better at? Have you been to the DMV? You ever walk into the DMV and go, oh yeah, these people should be in charge of everything. Like, this is great. Like I've never been in any government office and went, oh yeah, these people, let's put them in charge of everything. Like, if you don't do a prenup, you've decided that the state legislature of the state in which you reside, at the time you divorce, okay? So not even the current government, a future government you haven't met yet, they'll do a better job than you and your partner. That's insane. Whether you're on the left or the right or the unhappy middle. I think we can all agree in the last 10 years, both sides of the political fence have said the government sucks, right? In 2016, the left was like, the government sucks. 2020, the right was like, the government sucks. Like everybody suddenly, okay. So can we all agree then that signing up for a contract, because that's all marriage is, a contract, okay? You're signing a contract. Unlike, by the way, every other contract you ever sign, as a business person, get it in paper, sign contracts. Yes, handshake deals are important, principles are important.
No, terrible.
Get lawyers involved, you put things on paper, okay?
100%.
All right, and you put them on paper while you're getting along. Yeah. You don't go, well, my partner and I, we get along so good, we don't need to do that. Every business that fails and has the ugliest courtroom battle, it's because we were friends and we trust each other, we don't need to write things down. And then when it goes wrong, and when it's successful, that's when it falls apart. That's when everyone goes, well, wait a minute, we'd agreed to that, but that was when that. So you get it in writing while you're getting along. Okay, so are you going to say the state legislature in the future, I trust them so much that I'm going to say whatever rules they think are fair, I agree to. And by the way, if they change the rules, I'm okay with that too, and I can't opt out of the contract. Like like a simple contract is a car lease. So let's say you lease a Porsche. And halfway through the lease, they go, by the way, your payment's staying the same, but now we're giving you a Honda Civic. You would be like, well, no, then I'm out of this contract. Well, imagine if they could say, yeah, sorry, you can't opt out of the contract. We can change the contract, but you can't change the contract, and you're in the contract no matter what. Yeah. Well, that's what you're doing if you marry without a prenup. So I think the reason why prenups are so dramatically on the rise now.
Are they?
Absolutely.
Like what percentage of people get a prenup?
It's very hard to say because prenups are not filed anywhere. They're only filed when they're filed as part of a divorce. And when they're filed as part of a divorce, they're in a sealed matrimonial file. And people lie about prenups because I will tell you, I represent a lot of celebrities and athletes, and I have more than once been watching, Access Hollywood or Entertainment Tonight, and they're interviewing a celebrity who's getting married, and they go, so did you guys do a prenup? And they go, oh no, we don't need a prenup. I'm like, you're lying. It's in my safe. Like, it's in my safe. You signed it at my conference table 2 days ago. Why are you telling people you don't have a prenup? Because I understand why. Because it's this like, no, that's how much we love each other, is we just trust that we're never going to get divorced. Like, which, by the way, again, I tell people, because I represent a lot of people in finance because I'm a divorce lawyer in New York City. I always tell people, don't look at marriage like gambling or like buying a stock. Because a stock, if you invest $1 million, it can go to zero. Getting married is like shorting stocks. Like there's no amount, there's no stop loss. Like it's just like they could change the law anytime and really screw you and you can't get out of it. So there is so much value, in my opinion. What's happening with younger people, they're pragmatic. When I say younger, I mean in their 20s, their 30s, the demographic that's getting married. They're just starting to say pragmatically, like, yeah, we got it. And by the way, all of my colleagues, we all see a dramatic increase in the number of prenups that we're doing. And then it's also getting easier to do prenups. One of the ventures I'm involved in is trustedprenup.com. And what we did is we basically used like AI, we used large language model, and several hundred prenups that I've done in various financial situations we fed into this thing.
That's brilliant.
And we created basically
like
a online kind of choose your own adventure of how to do a prenup. We guarantee its airtight ability, its enforceability. And we basically say valid in all 50 states. Wow. And we make it affordable to people. We've democratized prenups.
What does it cost?
$599 is the price point for it. If you want to have attorney review, meaning that you want to have an attorney licensed in the state in which you reside, review it for you, and also have one for your spouse, it's still under $2,000.
That's incredible.
To put that in perspective, the retainer most divorce lawyers take for drafting a prenup is $15,000.
Oh, I remember.
So yeah, so it's a much, much cleaner, easier way of doing it. And again, do I still think the old-fashioned way of going and hiring an attorney and having your question answered? I think that's a great way to do it. But the way we did it on trustedprenup.com is I've counseled so many hundreds of people on prenups. We just made all these little videos of me answering the most common questions that people have about their prenup. And at each stage along the way, when you're trying to decide which option to take, you can watch a video of me answering that question. So it's a way to just sort of make this scalable. And again, we did it really to democratize prenups because everyone has a prenup. Again, it's either one that's written by the government or it's one that's written by these two people. And to me, that's a no-brainer.
So good. What is the craziest prenup you've ever seen?
I mean, I've seen a lot of crazy prenups. I will say two. One of them I've talked about before, and that is there was a prenup where for every 10 pounds she gained during the marriage, she lost $10,000 a month in alimony.
Holy shit.
And it was enforceable. That was the funniest thing, is that a court upheld it. And the judge who upheld it, who was female, said, I want to say, I don't know why you married this man. What? This is a boorish clause. It's disgusting, but it's a contract and the two of you signed it and you had a lawyer and he had a lawyer and it's enforceable. So it was upheld. Now, I'd tell you, here's why lawyers are weird. I mean, it's one of the many reasons. But when I read the provision, I remember thinking, oh, I could work with this. Because if I was her, like you have to have a baseline weight.
Yeah. So
I was like, all right, just like put like pennies in your pockets and wear your heaviest clothes. And then if you get divorced, be like a pro fighter, like wear the sweatsuit, be in the sauna, get butt naked on the scale, and like strip it down as much as you can. But here's what I'll tell you. There was something honest about that prenup because he was an ogreish fellow and he had a lot of money and she was beautiful and didn't really bring much else to the table. And I think they were honest about the economy of that relationship because I think relationships are an economy. I don't think that's a dirty word. I think that if an economy is an exchange of value, then, you marry someone because there's an exchange of value. You give value, you receive value. And what value is worth what is a very subjective concept between those two people. And it's very hard to quantify, like, oh, how much is this worth or that worth? So that's the most crazy prenup I ever saw. I see a lot of prenups where people make insane demands. I'm seeing a lot of it lately, and I'm seeing it more with women, where women are, because I do a lot of prenups for guys in finance. So they're in their 30s or 40s and they've got, 10 million, 20 million. And they're marrying like a yoga teacher or they're marrying like someone who just does not have the assets that they have and is usually beautiful and brings that to the table and more fun than them because they've had their head down and been, you've been at Goldman, they got their head down and they're doing their thing. They're working the hours. And the men very quickly are like, I want her to waive everything. Like, unless it's in her name, like if it's in my name, it's mine. If it's in joint names, okay, we'll split it 50-50. If it's in her name, it's hers, but nothing, she gets nothing. No alimony, no anything. And I have seen a lot more women now say, okay, like I'll do a prenup, but I have some things I'm going to want.
Yeah.
Like I want in the marriage and some things if the marriage ends. Because you can put in a prenup some of the things that we want in the marriage too. So I've had women that are like, I want a push present if we have kids of no less value than this. I want this many vacations of no less value than this. I want a monthly personal appearance allowance that'll like cover like things I want for my self-care. And they're being very pragmatic about it. Wow. And there's a little more pushback. And I think that that's an interesting thing to me. I actually don't, there are probably some people that would be judgmental about that transaction, but I really do think, at the risk of getting misty-eyed about it, that I don't think you can feel loved if you don't feel safe. And I think a prenup is about both people feeling safe. Yeah. Like, I'll give, but do I have to give everything? Like, will I get my legs chopped out from under me? And, I need security. Like, I need security. If you're going to be the breadwinner and I'm going to be a supportive other and I'm going to like diminish my lifetime earning capacity by not pursuing other ventures, or I'm going to give you my skinny years, or I'm going to, whatever it is, like I need some security. And I think a rational person who wants their partner to feel safe would go, okay, I get that. So what is it? Like, what's the answer? I don't know that the answer is half of everything I have, but there's probably an answer we can come to. And I think just having that conversation is potentially an opportunity for us to like talk about some important things in this relationship and what we mean to each other and what we owe each other.
It's a good point because I've seen a lot of, so I went through I'm almost 40 now, I'm 39. And I remember like my first round of friends who all got married. Yeah. And we lived in Dallas and most of us got divorced. Yeah. And for whatever reason, we all got married kind of young. And I was the first one. Yeah. And then they would call me later, and kind of be like, how does it happen? So you talk to a divorce attorney. How much does that cost? What do I do with the finances? Yeah. I was probably one of the only ones that worked and I made the money then. Yeah. And so they didn't know where any of the money was. Yeah. There was a lot of hidden stuff for them. Mm-hmm. The men obviously felt like I did all the work, but they felt like they had all the babies because it was Dallas, so everybody was having babies. Yeah. And there was like this massive amount of fear, I think, on both sides, which seems like it's not good for divorce because when you're both scared, then you do crazy things. Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder how much better many of them would have been if they would have said the quiet part out loud first.
I think all of them would have been better. I think premarital education would have been really good for everybody. Like all of the people that talk about, no-fault divorce is bad for our culture because it makes it too easy to get divorced. Like, I don't believe that for a second. But I think if you actually want to change the divorce rate, we have to create barriers to entry. Ooh. Like, I can't get a driver's license without taking a written test, passing a vision test, then passing a road test, then having a probationary license for a certain period of time. Marriage, $50, Elvis will marry you in Nevada. Like, that's it. Like, you don't get a pamphlet. You just did the most legally significant thing you're going to do other than die. And you didn't get a pamphlet. Like, the first time most people learn what legally happened when they got married is when they're getting divorced. Like, you don't have to be a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to tell somebody the worst time to learn how to fight is when you're in a fight. Yeah. Like, if I asked your husband, when's the best time to learn how to shoot a gun? Is it when I'm in a gunfight? No, that's the worst possible time. Like, literally any time in your entire life prior to that moment would have been a good time to learn, right? So why don't we just have some basic premarital education? Why don't we have some sense of, hey, by the way, you're opting out of the title system. Your estate rights have automatically changed on both the state and federal level when you got married. Like, most people have no idea. So why not? Like, why not have everyone has to spend 1 hour with a divorce lawyer before they can get a marriage license? That seems very fair to me. Like, it seems like something that would be useful for people, because at least that way they'll know, take this thing seriously. And I know what my downside risk is. And look, I think one of the beautiful things about being in a relationship, in my opinion, is the ability that you're not doing all of it yourself. You know, like, maybe you like to cook and I like doing dishes, you know, or maybe you don't mind taking the dogs out and I don't mind doing the laundry. Like, and there's this sense of like, hey, like, let's both figure out what it is. But here's the thing. You should know how to do laundry. Like, I'm not saying, like, if I don't mind doing laundry and you don't really like doing laundry, cool, I'll do the laundry. Like, if you like, let me tell you something. We were in a relationship. You can handle the finances. Knock yourself out. You're better at it than me. I'm a good lawyer. I'm not a great businessman. Perfect. Here you go. You're in charge of that. I trust you enough. You're in charge. Okay. But I should know where the accounts are. I know. I should have some basic, we should have a meeting once a month where we go, okay, babe, so you remember this is all here. And remember I invested in this and here's what's going on with that. And just so you know, God forbid something happens to me, you'll know where everything was. But again, there's this sense that like, no, it's like Voldemort. If we say it out loud, if we say like, well, what if we ever split up? Or what if one of us died? Oh, no. By the way, one of those two things is definitely going to happen. Like, one of you is going to die, or you're going to get divorced. Definitely. Guaranteed. Like, you're both going to die. Definitely. That's just reality. So why not just say, hey, we need to both know how to do some things. Like if you don't like to cook, I'm not saying you have to learn to cook if you're going to be in a relationship, but like, your partner's going to be away sometimes. You have to know how to like, okay, I know how to like scramble an egg, or I know how to do some basic
girl
thing.
dinner. Yeah.
Something, some bachelor dinner, like learn how to make some little thing, you know, because again, otherwise, you're creating a situation where there's this imbalance of power that I don't think is good. I don't think it's healthy long term.
When you talk to a judge, do you talk like that?
No.
You're really calm.
No, I have to do a whole character. Yeah. No, you have
What's
to do.
What's the character?
Well, here's what's funny. You know, like, there's a saying that fame is the mask that eats into the wearer.
Oh,
like,
that's a bar.
Some of these people know me now. So, like, I give them a little more Sexton.
Yeah.
I get to be
like,
a little more.
This is you.
Yeah, this is me. And I get to be a little more me.
Yeah.
It's a very polished up, non-profane version of me. But there's it depends on the judge. Like, I'll tell you, a good lawyer knows the law, a great lawyer knows the judge. And, like, I know which judges, like, enjoy the Sexton show. Right. So there's some judges, when I'm trying cases, I can pull some shit. You know, like, I can do the show. And, like, they don't want the steak, they want the sizzle. And then there's some judges that they know that I'm a showman and they're expecting that and they don't like it. So they don't get that. They get the very, if it may please the court, Your Honor, you know, and at the end of the day, like, yes, I have this very performative streak and I'm a trial lawyer and trial lawyers are closet hacks. Like, we all want to be like, you know, comedians or actors, but I am a law geek to the core. Like, I love this job. I study the appellate division decisions as they come out. Like, I know my trade.
Wow.
And I love what I do. And I know the law. And I've memorized most of Black's Law Dictionary. Like, I like, hearsay is a statement made by the declarant other than one by testifying at trial or other proceeding offered into evidence to prove the truth of the matter asserted. Like, I have it all in here. But I still like to put on the show. But at the end of the day, like, if the show's not going to work, okay. Like, and that's what's interesting about this profession is people will come into my office. It's the only job where someone will come into your office and go, I heard you're a ruthless son of a bitch. And they mean it as a compliment.
So true.
Like I was described by New York Magazine as the sociopath you want on your side. Now, I get misty-eyed talking about dogs. I'm clearly not a sociopath. But it's like sometimes that's the task, right? Like the task is like there's cases where I need to be like the ruthless, sadistic person who's going to cross-examine you to death. And then there are cases where like my job is to be conciliatory and friendly and keep the energy of it, in a calm place. And, there's a saying I memorized years ago from Reese's, because people used to say to me, like, how do you eviscerate someone on cross-examination? Like, how do you go at someone the way you have to as a lawyer sometimes? And I think anyone who's ever been in the military and had to be in combat, or anyone who's ever had to like do things that feel like harsh or amoral or immoral. There's a line from Reese's Sardonicus where he said, I've resigned myself to temporary complicity with evil in order to accomplish certain specific objectives for people whose suffering is more important than my need to maintain moral purity. Oof. And so I feel like in my line of work, I don't have a need to maintain moral purity. Like I represent the good guy, I represent the bad guy. Like I'm a weapon, and you point the weapon. And a weapon in the hands of someone who's a good person can protect and save. And a weapon in the hands of a villain is a very dangerous thing. But I'm the weapon. And I don't always believe in the client, but I don't just represent the client, I represent the system.
100%.
And I always believe in the system. Like I think our legal system is a good legal system. It's got problems. Like we have the worst legal system except for all the other ones, and I believe in it. And I think you get to be part of justice happening.
Yeah, it's interesting. My husband always says this line from Ender's Game, which is
great book
about war. Yeah, and how we will debate the morals of war after we've won it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah. Well, and I think your husband would understand what I consider to be, the world needs bad men. We keep the other bad men from the door.
I think that's true.
And I think that that's something what we have to do. And I think that a lot of the first 20 years of my profession was about becoming a weapon in a courtroom and honing that craft and honing that skill. And about 5 or 6 years ago, because I wake up at 4 a.m. every day and it's really quiet, I just started writing the book just as sort of something to do, to use a different muscle. And I started to write this sort of like reverse how-to book. It was like a how not to screw up your marriage. And I suddenly like had a book. I found I'd written a book. Like like if you write a page a day, in a year you got a book, And I remember thinking, oh, this is a completely different thing. Like, and I wonder if this will hurt the world's perception of me as this like weapon and as this, and I'm very happy to say it hasn't.
No. Tell them the title in the UK again. I really like
the title. Yeah, so the title in the US is How to Stay in Love, Practical Wisdom from an Unlikely Source. And in the UK, which is why I love the UK, is how to not fuck up your marriage. Which I thought
I like it better.
I like it better.
Yeah,
I like it better.
But I do like this cover a lot too. And I think one of the interesting parts too, we have a dear friend whose name is Roy Altman, and he is one of the youngest, I'm going to get it wrong. He's a judge in Florida. Okay. And I think one day potentially will be on the Supreme Court. And he is an appointed judge.
Okay.
Federal judge.
Okay.
And anyway, his memory recall of both the law and quotes and scripts reminds me a lot of you in
amazing.
A different way.
It's a wild thing.
It's a weird skill you guys have. But it's in the book too, and in your quotes, which is this interweaving of 25 years of experience from being an attorney, but also this like double life you have of reading all of these laws continuously. Yeah. And then, I mean, I have to assume that you're you've mentioned a few poets.
No, I read constantly. I love literature. I love poetry. I love film. I love art. I've always been a person who loved to travel and to sort of take in things from other cultures. So I think that everything I do is infused. Like my Brazilian jiu-jitsu, my interest in feudal Japan and sort of the ideas of like, Bushido and the warrior code and things like that. That infuses my practice. Like my undergraduate degree in psychology and my interest in Carl Jung, my interest in psychedelics, like all of the things that these have all infused what it is that I do. My upbringing, I was raised very religious. I was raised very dogmatically Catholic, and then went all the other way and became a total atheist, and then somehow found myself back in like this happy agnostic middle place. I think that all of it infuses, the way that I think how you do anything's how you do everything. I mean, I really do. I think that if we bring the fullness of ourself to whatever the task is, it's going to be infused with all the best parts of us. So
it's so good. What is your favorite? Just as like this is a curious question for Cody, not even for anybody listening, but like you've mentioned a few poets and a few fiction books. Like what are your favorites? What's your favorite poem of all time?
My favorite poem of all time.
Is it the Brodsky?
Probably would be a song by Joseph Brodsky. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful poem.
That's number one.
Yeah, I love that one. Gosh, of poems, I think Allen Ginsberg, some of his poems are incredible. There are, I would say, Let It Enfold You by Charles Bukowski.
Love Bukowski.
Yeah, so I would say probably my two favorite poems other than a song by Joseph Brodsky would be Bluebird by Bukowski and Let It Enfold You. Let It Enfold You, I think is, I still can't get all the way through Bluebird without crying.
Get out.
Like if I read Bluebird out loud, I get halfway through it and start crying.
Oh, mine is On Writing by Bukowski. Have you read that one?
That's
fucking that kill, especially as an author. That line about like the libraries of the world have yawned themselves to sleep by another book as a business card. You're just like, fuck, you're right. Don't write a shitty book.
But it's interesting. You like cynical Bukowski.
Yeah.
And I like this world has exhausted me and somehow I haven't given up, Bukowski. Like Let It Enfold You is about like how broken he was and he still found beauty in the world. And Bluebird's about that too. So those are my two favorite poems.
But I don't think On Writing is cynical by Bukowski, because the last line's about like, either it'll die inside you or you'll die if you don't write it. And like,
no,
so
it's meant to be
right?
inspirational. It's not
But
cynical.
he was also a psychopath too. Like, some of his stuff.
Some of the greatest artists, I think, are in all genius, there's madness. I mean, I've represented some of these people in their divorces, some musicians that are incredibly gifted and they're really disturbed people. But authors, I mean, I would say, I think the book that I find most powerful to me is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I think that's a beautiful book because I think what it's about isn't what it's about. I think it's about like what does it mean to be human and love and the complex nature of human beings. I just read an amazing book by an author named Jason Green. It's a pretty new book. It's called Unworld. Arguably, it's about like artificial intelligence, but it's really not. It's about grief and loss and love. It's still in hardcover. It's a brand new book. I bought it as like on a whim. Anthony Jeselnik recommended it, and I was like, I'll get it. And I bought it, and I was going to Vegas just for like to play blackjack and have a nice like fun weekend. And I'm sitting by the pool at the Palazzo crying.
Yeah, that was gonna say that.
Like crying like a little like because there's some passages in it that are just so well written that I would get mad at it because I was like, I'll never write anything that good. But also like some of it is just it's so moving of a book. It's just about like what is consciousness? What does it mean to love someone and lose them? And I'm sitting by the pool at the Palazzo like really like tears coming down my face, trying to like look like, oh no, I'm just, I got sunscreen in my eyes. But it was so Unworld by Jason Green. That would be another one. But I mean, poetry has always spoken to me. My mother was very moved by beauty and I was very lucky for that. I'm thinking about her a lot today because it was 10 years today. And whenever I think about her, the longer that she's gone, the more I see the pieces of me that are born of her, because those pieces are like the only way I get to see her now. And something about her that was so amazing that I didn't understand when I was a kid is how she would just be moved to tears by things. Like she'd be singing along with a song and just start crying. And I, as a kid, I was like, Like, what's the matter? Like, like, did you like skin your knee? What are you doing? And it was just that she's like, oh, it's just so pretty. And I would find myself going like, oh, wow, okay. And that was okay, And I never let the experience of being a man beat that out of me.
Yeah, to still have the ability to have
to still be moved by beauty. Like I would cry from beauty much more than I ever cry from pain, And so I think poetry is still a way to like deeply connect to that.
With this book, who do you hope reads it and what do you hope they take away?
Oh, gosh, there's a whole bunch of people I hope read it. I hope that people who are just getting into relationships read it because I think it could give them some skills that they can use early on. Because I think it's a whole lot easier to stay in good shape than it is to get super heavy and then try to lose all the weight. So I think like it's a whole lot easier to like stay in love than it is to be in love, let it fall apart, neglect it, and then try to find your way back. But I hope that some people find it who maybe are starting that slide and say, okay, is there a way to turn this thing around? I hope some people who are way down deep in that valley of it will read it and either realize, okay, that maybe there's a path or, okay, there isn't. Because I think, you and I have both found in our lives that sometimes happily ever after means happily ever after separately. And that, the barn burns down and now I can see the moon, and I think that, you are the sum of all of these things, and as two people who divorced and then found love after our divorce. And even my ex-wife, she's been remarried for 15 years to an amazing guy. Our oldest son just got married a couple of months ago, and we were all at the wedding together. And I'll tell you a funny story. We were sitting at the wedding together, and my now daughter-in-law, they were law school sweethearts, my son, and she's this brilliant lawyer, and she's beautiful, and she's smart. She's just an amazing young woman. And they wrote their own vows. And so my son, gave his vows, and they were very lovely. He has some of his dad's performance skills, and but he's more intelligent. He's more like academic and wonky. And then she started her vows. I'm gonna try to get through this without getting misty-eyed. And she's like, you're the strongest man I know. You make me feel so safe. And I was like, oh shit! Like, I taught him the cow says moo. Like I had some peace in that. This was the goal. This was the goal, to make that kind of man that a woman that amazing would feel that way about. And so she's reading these vows and all of a sudden, just that's it. Tears start pouring out of me. And my niece who's sitting next to me, like very subtly, hands me a tissue, and thank you. And my ex-wife who's sitting next to me, who I'm still friendly with, leans over and goes, "You're such a fucking pussy." And I was like, yep, that's my life. That's my life right there.
You need both.
You do. Honest. Yeah. It was like the real yin and the yang.
You got him.
Yeah. It was amazing. It was an amazing moment. And I told my son about it later. He's like, yep, that's mom. That's mom.
I feel like I kind of like her.
Yeah, she's great. Oh, I do too. Please, one of my there's a lot of people I love who wouldn't want to be married to.
Oh, same.
She would say that about me. She was like, oh, 100%. Jim's great in the rearview mirror. Like, he's a great co-parent. I'm a great ex-husband. By the way, the skill set for an ex-husband, the resume for an ex-husband, totally different than for a husband. Yeah. Like, I'm bad at husband. Husband, I have to be like, yeah, tell me about your day. Oh, really? Like, I'm not. I'm like, come on, we got to land this plane. Like, let's go. Come on, I got to skip to the end, And but ex-husband, reliable, punctual, reliable when it comes to the kids. The check shows up on time. Everything great. I was great at being an ex-husband.
I always joke with my husband. I'm like, nannies. I have a lot of rules when it comes to nannies. Yeah. I want to end on this one, actually. I want to get your take on it.
Yeah.
And my two main rules are I have age and weight minimums. Okay. And they're pretty high.
They're pretty high.
Because I've seen what people do with their nannies.
Well, there's a chapter in my book called Everyone's Fucking the Nanny.
Okay, it's true. So am I right?
Yeah.
Do age and weight minimums help?
Oh,
what are the real?
No, they don't help.
God damn it.
They don't help that much. I mean, definitely don't go for like the super hot Polish nanny.
Brazilian
like bad idea.
Pair?
No, terrible idea.
Absolutely not.
Well, I'll tell you two nanny stories very quickly.
Okay.
One is I tell in the book, there's a story about a guy, they hired a nanny the husband decided to try to convince the nanny to have a threesome with he and the wife without telling the wife he was going to try to encourage her to do this. And then went to the wife and said, oh, the nanny wants to have a threesome with us. And the wife was like, I don't think we should do that. And the nanny was like, I don't think we should do that. And he was like, no, the other one wants this. And da-da. And he somehow convinced both of them. And so they ended up having a threesome. It would happen every couple of months. They'd have threesomes together. And then one night, wife is out and he says to the nanny, hey, she's not home. Why don't we, the two of us? And she's like, whoa, that wasn't the deal. The deal was I thought we were doing like a group thing. And he was like, oh, no, it's no big deal. She'd be fine with it. And the nanny a couple of weeks later says to the wife, by the way, the other night he approached me and said it would be okay with you. And the wife was like, yeah, that's not okay with me. The PS of the story, the wife left him for the nanny. And they lived happily ever after. Last time, this was like 12 years ago, they're still together.
That is the best karma I've ever heard in my whole life.
Yeah, so I was like, that is the risk of trying to convince the nanny to get involved in a threesome. But I talk about in the book what I call the nanny fascination. And I actually think that there's a fairly benign explanation for it. And that is that the nanny in some ways represents a lot of the aspects of the wife before you guys had kids. She has a life outside the home. She has interests outside the home. She is still something of a mystery to you and you're a mystery to her. She likes the father because he's like the dad and it's kind of cool. And, and he's also, there's an economic aspect to their relationship that makes it very simple, that it's like, I pay you, you take care of the kids. And what I said, the solution to it is actually not hire really unattractive nannies, because there are some examples even of celebrities who have left for far less attractive people. There's a lot of celebrities who've left for nannies, and a lot of non-celebrities who've left for nannies. I actually think the secret is a pretty easy one, and that is reclaim the parts of yourself that were part of the nanny. Like, I think that a woman, particularly when you have children, there's a tremendous temptation to spend a lot of your time and energy focused on your children, to take whatever time you have left over, focus it on your husband. And I think that there is tremendous value in really continuing to have the you, the me, and the we, and to take time to be yourself, like to do the yoga class, do the Pilates class, go out with the friends, join the book club, do whatever it is that made you uniquely you and kept you as something other than just a mom. Because being a mom is such an all-consuming task that, of course, it's understandable to say, oh, I want to devote all of my attention and time to it. But there is tremendous value for you, for your spouse, for your kids, for the betterment of this ecosystem that is your home, in maintaining your connection to your true self and who you are independently of the family. So I think that's the lesson that can be learned from the nanny thing. But yeah, the nanny thing's a thing.
Knew it. This is so good.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with the nannies. So family member's always the best. Like I've only had a couple of divorces where someone was sleeping with someone's family member. I've done a few of those though. Cousins, sisters, brothers.
I'm just gonna have to not ask you some questions, because I don't want to know.
You know what's funny is I've been doing this so long that every once in a while, like I'll share with somebody like something that happened in a case, and they're like, "Oh my God!" And I'll go, "Oh, I guess that is weird." Yeah, but you just don't, to like it. I don't know. This is what I do.
No,
like you
so
just
true.
don't. Yeah, I navigate this weird world.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming today. I have
me.
loved going down the rabbit hole. I want people to follow you on all the socials. I find your TikTok and Instagram to be fascinating.
Thanks.
I like the show that you're doing now too,
where you call Sexton.
Yeah, where you have people ask you questions.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
And then obviously read the book, How to Stay in Love.
Appreciate it.
James, thanks for being here.
Great to see you. Absolutely. Thanks, Cody.
You don't want to be the average American because the average American dies broken alone. Why? Do you feel deep down in your gut that you're not doing enough? People don't care about where you went to school anymore or what you think they're good at. Show me. Don't tell me. Sundar Pichai at Google did not become worth hundreds of millions of dollars from his Google salary. Getting some skin in the game and some ownership is the pre-indicator for wealth. We don't actually want millions of dollars to sit on them, right? We don't want to Scrooge McDucket in this silo filled with all of our coins. That's actually not that interesting to us. This is the Big Deal Podcast, and I'm Codie Sanchez. Today, I want to talk about why I think procrastination is the worst form of self-abuse, how to actually achieve the things you want in 2025, if small has infected your thinking, what it takes to hit millionaire status, and then 10 and 20 and 30 millionaire status. This podcast today answers the most often asked questions all about living big lives with big bank accounts and liking it along the way. I think you're going to like it. First question. Playing the role of a 25-year-old, I want to get where you are, but I only have $7K in the bank. What's my first step? There's 4 stages to making money. The first stage is your learning stage, where you're just figuring out not only what do I not know, but what do I think I know that I really don't. This is called conscious incompetence as opposed to unconscious competence. So what you want to do when you're young is not really obsess so much on how to make your first million from your earnings going to your job, but how do you make it from learning? So that's step 1. Step 2 is earning. So after you've started to get in that learning phase of your career, you want to start maximizing earnings. I really don't think that starts happening until you're like 3, 4, 5 of you being in the business world or having a job. Step 3 is where you start investing. So you take some of your earnings, some of your learnings, and you start putting it into something that can pay you even when you're sleeping. And then step 4 is mastery. This is where you start getting paid and earning even without you investing any money in it. And that step 4 is one that most people never get to. Most people don't even learn, but most people only obsess on 2 things, earning and then very marginally investing, but you're not going to be most people. So what I want you to do if you're only 25 years old is obsess on one thing. How can I get around people that make me smarter, that make me learn more consistently? And then how can I take those learnings and apply them to put more in my pocket, aka earnings? That's what I would do. The follow-up question that you had here was, how do I become you? One thing that's very true about mentors or people that you aspire to be overall, no such thing as a perfect human. So the real question is, what part of me do you want to become? Or what part of anybody that you see do you want to become? Maybe what you really mean by this is, Codie, I want to have a bank account as big as you. Codie, I want to own as many businesses as you. And if that's the case, then that's a very different outcome, right? And what you're trying to say is, okay, by the time I'm in my mid-30s, I want to be able to have X millions of dollars in the bank. How do I reverse engineer that? I think the first place that you want to start is you want to go back and steal other people's 10,000 hours. So why would I recreate the wheel when I already have a blueprint and a framework for how to do it? So what would I do if I was you? I would probably go to my LinkedIn or whoever's LinkedIn that you want to look at and see what different jobs that did they have, what were the titles, what were the locations, what were the companies that allowed them to grow this sort of bank account. Then I might want to say, okay, inside of those companies, what are the steps I can find that allowed those companies to get to the next level and thus allowed her to get to the next level? So for somebody like me, you could basically look at my career and say, okay, I want to reverse engineer Codie Sanchez, which means I want to figure out the playbook that she used so I can see if it's applicable to today. So you might go, okay, well, up until this point, Codie obsessed on learning finance and money. That took her like 10 years. But it looks like she left a job about every year and a half, which I did. And during that, I'm assuming she's leaving because she's getting a bigger payout, more money from another job, and more learnings, a different type of learning plus earning. And then what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to see inside of Codie's growth trajectory. When did she first own her own company? Can I find out when she first started investing? And how did she grow that first company? And a lot of that's on the internet too. So you can very easily go and look and say, it looks like she first started owning her own company in, I don't remember what year, but let's say 2018. And in that company, it looks like she launched a newsletter first. And then it looks like she took that newsletter and she made it paid. And then the next step was this. Most people think that they want to learn tactics or tools. I think the best way to learn is case studies. That's why Harvard, for instance, has the biggest library in the world of business case studies. Because once you've seen somebody else's playbook, you can figure out how to re-engineer it. That's what I would do if you want to have, let's say, my bank account. I don't think anybody wants to become somebody else totally. The next question you guys asked, why do you think most people never reach financial freedom in their lives? It's a big question, isn't it? They say that 1 in 10 Americans will die broke, that most Americans will never be able to afford $1,000 healthcare expense, that more than 50% of Americans. They say that most Americans will filter in and out of their band economically. They won't actually progress up and make more money over time. So one thing I know for sure is you don't want to be the average American, which is tough to say because the average American dies broke and alone. And so if that's the case, then what do we want to do? We want to do the opposite. I think most people don't achieve financial freedom because if you want to be extraordinary, you have to be around extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. So the fastest way to get financial freedom or change your life is to change where you are. I call this the power of place. So let's say right now you're around a group of friends and you're in a city in which you don't know anybody who's making $1 million plus or multiple millions of dollars or building the next big tech company. The easiest thing to do is simply move, is to get where the game is played that you want to play. Because I truly think that success is contagious. And actually, the data really shows that. The data shows, and I pulled a little bit of this for you guys, the data shows a couple things. That one, if you sit next to a high performer, you have a 15% higher likelihood of high performance yourself. So their performance rubs off on you. If you're next to a low performer or an underperformer, you have 30% lower performance on average. So if you're making 100 grand a year and you sit next to a high performer, maybe you're making 115K. If you're sitting next to an underperformer, they just took $30,000 from your pocket. At least that's how I like to think about it because it makes it really, really material. So your friends and your coworkers really matter. What does that mean? I think if you want financial freedom, you got to get at a company where other people are strivers and they are exceptional because talent breeds more talent. And I think what's also really interesting is that as of the fourth quarter of 2021, the top 1% of households in the US held 30.9% of the nation's wealth, the top 1%, while the bottom 50% only owned 2.6%. So over the past 5 decades, the top 1% of American earners have nearly doubled their share of national income, which leads us to believe, and there's a lot of studies that prove it, that your socioeconomic status in the U.S. is actually harder to change now than it was in the last 150 years. And we'll have all of these linked in the show notes on the YouTube video if you want to go and see the studies and see if you can poke any holes in them. So what that tells me is that we have to change the people that we are around. I think that is first and foremost. And then the second thing that we've got to do is we've got to change the ideas that are in our head. And so thankfully, a lot of success, there is actually, you guys, which is fascinating, there is little to no research that high IQ leads to higher income. Now, there is research that shows really low IQ or very like lower mid IQ and below does materially show that you're going to make less money. Lots of research showing that. But there's not a lot of research that says high IQ leads to income. In fact, at the highest levels of IQ, they actually have a lower income. Why is that? Because they are not able to do what's called EQ, right? Emotional intelligence. And a lot of success actually is driven by two things that have nothing to do with you having money or with you being really smart. And the first one is your EQ. How do you engage with people? Can you get people to do things that you want? Can you get people to trust you? How do you present yourself as a human? And the second part has to do with grit. You know, one of my favorite studies by Angela Duckworth at the University of Pennsylvania, I believe. I believe it was at Penn, but you guys will tell me if it's a different one. She basically showed that the number one indicator for success over time was grit. How hard are people willing to work? That is the biggest reason why you'll be successful one way or the other. The second reason why you'll be successful one way or the other, the highest indicator besides just how hardworking you are, is actually from another study called the marshmallow study or the cookie study. There were two sort of famous studies done. And what they realized is They tracked, it's called a longitudinal study. So it's one of the longest done studies over time. And what they basically did is from a young age, they tracked children and saw if one group of children, they were told, hey, if you don't eat that cookie in front of you right now, when I come back, you can have two. And if you eat that cookie now, you get the cookie, but you don't get the second one. So they did this to a bunch of children. And what happened? Well, they found that a bunch of kids actually, did eat the cookie and a bunch didn't eat the cookie. So they took them into two control groups. The group of kids that didn't eat the cookie over time were more successful than the ones that did eat the cookie. And so what does that show you? It shows you that over time, it's not just grit that you have to have, but it's delayed satisfaction. So if you could optimize for two things to make you richer than almost anything else, it would be, can I work hard, like really hard, consistently over time? Think marathon, not sprint. And then simultaneously, can I delay gratification in order to achieve more over time? And if you can do those two things, you're more likely to succeed than somebody who is really rich and somebody who has a really high IQ, which is good for us normal people. Another question you guys asked. If you could encapsulate your message into one sentence, what would that sentence be? But also, who exactly would that sentence be for? Cool question. The one word that encapsulates my entire message is ownership. And you guys might have heard me say this, but I want to make sure you understand. So the difference between somebody who has a big bank account and somebody who has a big bank account but freedom is really just one word: ownership. We don't actually want millions of dollars to sit on them, right? We don't want to Scrooge McDuck in this silo filled with all of our coins. That's actually not that interesting to us, although it'd be kind of fun to do for a second. But anyway, that's not why we want money. We don't want money to just hold it in our hands. We want money for things, right? We want money for status. We want money to project strength. We want money for security. We want money to assert our will. And so when you think about it, the only way to have real wealth over time is to have ownership. And what do I mean by that? Well, we know that 60% of all millionaires own a small business. We know that if you want that high level of money, that 88% of all people worth 30 million plus or above own a business. And so the data tells us that if we want to be worth a lot of money, the highest likelihood to get there is through ownership. That's why I'm kind of obsessed with this idea of teaching people to buy businesses. It doesn't mean you have to leave your job. It doesn't mean you have to buy a business outright, but getting some skin in the game and some ownership is the pre-indicator for wealth. In fact, we're doing an entire 3-day event in February that I've never done before. I don't know if I'll ever do again, where we teach people how to buy businesses. Why? Because I think that is the biggest lever for freedom. And so if you are a person that doesn't feel like you have enough money, you have enough time, you have enough security, you have an ability to grow your business as fast as you want, then you should learn how to do ownership or deal making. And that's why we're teaching this live. And you guys can actually go to CodieSanchez.com or go to contrarianthinking.co. And at either one, there'll be a pop-up on there that gives you the 3-day live event. We've never done anything like it, and I think it's going to be pretty incredible. Your next question is, who would your message not resonate with? Really, there's 3 types of people that are not going to be good owners, and you should not buy a business if you are this type of human. 1, if you're not willing to choose hard. I wish I could tell you a way to make money that was super easy, no work, not going to happen. In fact, I giggled because the way we're titling this podcast is this question mark. Can you make money with no work and no money and no time? And I think this episode is going to answer that for you. And the answer is that no. If you don't choose hard, then hard gets chosen for you. If you do not try to get fit, then what are you likely going to try? Or then what's going to likely try you? Being fat. Being broke is hard. Being rich is also hard. It's hard to get there. Being married, hard. Being single, also hard. So I think you have to choose what kind of life you want. The fallacy is that if you don't want to work hard and you don't choose hard, then you won't ever get it. And I just think that's not true. There are these people these days that are like, there's this hustle porn that's happening in the world. We've got this hustle culture. Yeah, maybe. But I think the truth of the matter is that either way, life's hard. Unfortunately, that's just what it is. It's a journey and it's hard no matter which way you go. The question is, are you trying to set yourself up for a life that, although hard, is worth it? And that's why our mission here is choose your hard. So one, if you don't want to choose hard things, you shouldn't try to get ownership in a business. It is hard up front, although worth it. Two is that if you are a type of person who wants things really fast. So one of the things that's true is if you go to Robinhood right now, you double click on a stock, you get like a little bunch of confetti that blows up in your face. You get to tell your friends you bought it. You get to watch the thing track up and down every single day. You don't actually have to do any work besides clicking the buttons. If that's you, if that's what you get off on, you're a speculative trader who over time will lose money. Go and look up the statistics. Something like 95% of all speculative investors lose money over time. They are the same thing as gamblers. Poker players always tell you about their winnings. They conveniently dismiss their losses. And poker has the best odds of any game that exists. It's like the only casino gambling game that theoretically you can win over time and you actually could make a profit and income off of it. But even that is gambling. And so if it worked all the time, the casinos wouldn't have all the money. And that is the same thing with speculative stock trading, with trying to do get-rich-quick schemes. And so you shouldn't try to be an owner if you are into get-rich-quick schemes, because those don't actually work over time. And the way you know they don't work is that those people don't actually do them consistently that try to teach you about them. I mean, I buy businesses. I buy businesses like BizScout, which you can see behind me, like Pinks, which you can see here. This is how we started our business and what we do every single month, day, and year. And why do we keep doing that? Because it actually works. And that's the process that we have. Whereas a lot of people who talk about things on the internet, it doesn't work, so they end up teaching other people about it. This is a sweet question. Why do you think your message is so popular right now? Instead, I would ask this question. Why do you feel deep down in your gut that you're not doing enough? Why is there a part of you that says, man, I'm capable of more, but I'm not doing it right now? Why is there a part of you that's tried side hustle after this, after that, and none of it's really worked and you feel a little lost, but you know that you're capable of more? Well, that's the reason our message resonates, because we've been sort of told a bunch of lies about making money and about learning and about work. We've been told over time that you are a good little boy or girl, you climb the ladder in school, you get good grades, you routinely repeat things, you score on some test about amoebas that you're never going to use again, then you get into a university. Unless you're at the tippy top universities, the university costs you a ton of money but doesn't actually ROI for you. Nobody will ever ask you for your GPA ever again in your entire life. The entire thing is just a proxy or symbol for how hard you work. And are you competent at all? There's an indicator that if you get into a better school, you're hardworking and competent. And so you do it, but you're basically paying hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime for a certification that says, yeah, I'm kind of smart and I'm hardworking. And then you'll have to interview me more than that. I went to Georgetown for my grad school and I went to Arizona State for undergrad. I can't remember my first 3 jobs. They asked where I went to school, never again after that. Maybe my first 3 jobs, they asked what my GPA was, never again after that. People don't care about where you went to school anymore or what you think they're good at. Show me. Don't tell me. And so the message is resonating because we were lied to about how to actually get ahead. And then we invested all our time and money into these things that were supposed to project us into a better future. And we're realizing over time, holy hell, they don't. And, there's this graph that we'll put on here. If you're on YouTube, you can look at it, that basically shows you over time, universities have increased by double digits every single year their cost. So we have this linear graph that looks like this for how much universities have cost. The problem, the ROI on them, so the return that you get for going to a university, has gone down. What do I mean by that? Well, you don't actually make the same amount more money by going to university as the increase in the cost of university. So that means the value has gone down. You know how you go to buy like a bag of Lay's chips lately or something, and you go to open the bag and the bag feels like big and fluffy, and then you open the thing, you're like, this is like a third. I paid for 3 chips. Like, what happened? So that's what's happening with university. We go there with all these ideas of like, once I get in, I'll have made it. And then when we go to leave, we realize, wait a second, I don't actually make more money because I went to this school that cost me 6 figures. And you can see that in the price of some of these higher level colleges now. And it's a scary thing for our future, and why I think the message is pushing back that show me what you're capable. I think in the future, we're going to have 2 types of people. We're going to have people who are stuck in a legacy industry in which they think that certifications, names of companies that they worked for, and resumes are the way that you get jobs. And then increasingly, we're going to have a growing segment of people, and I call these decentralized. So these are centralized, permissioned individuals on the left, aka I went to Harvard. Here's my resume from Goldman Sachs. I worked at Uber, Facebook, etc. Those are big signals, permissioned individuals. And then over here on the right, we're going to have decentralized, credentialless individuals who are like, I built my startup, but I dropped out of Harvard. Look at this, piece of copywriting that I did right here. Do you like this individually? Here's 7 deals that I closed over time. Do you want to see those? And increasingly, we're going to be able to prove, as one would on the blockchain, your work. You're going to have proof of work. And that proof of work will be the thing that drives people forward on a go forward basis. So if you want to get a job, you won't be able to explain your way in an interview and say, this is why you should hire me. You're going to actually have to say, let me show you. Let me show you live. Here's my proof of work. And you can tell me if this proof of work is up to your standard. There's a guy the other day that wanted to produce this podcast. This is a real story. And he interviewed really well. And he had a good story. And we liked him. It was kind of a decent culture fit. And then we were like, show us your work. Show me the best podcast work that you've done. And he showed us. And it was like a bad camera angle, not good lighting. The sound was kind of off. There weren't very many views, the ultimate quantitative indicator of good versus bad in this world. And so we were like, well, I'm confused. You say all these other things, but yet your work product has been subpar. So what happened? And he's like, well, we couldn't do this. We're kind of figuring it out. There were all these limitations. And we were like, unfortunately, this isn't a fit. If you can go somewhere and show us that you can have executed on this, then you can come. Or you can be junior and new in a role, but you can't come head something that you haven't actually done before. And this is really hard because a lot of times when we're young, we're like, well, you need the experience to get the experience. How does that work? And I remember that. But the way that you get the experience is by apprenticing, is by taking junior roles, is by side hustling, and is by doing your own proof of work and not asking for permission from others. If he would have shot his own little podcast and said, listen, I don't have any views, but look at this camera angle that I used. And then I had them edit it like this, and I actually used AI in the copy. And I think our thumbnail could be better, but here's how we did it. Amazing. Probably would have hired that guy. This is kind of interesting. Do you think money is seen as a masculine thing? Wealth creation, investing, all masculine. Well, I pulled some stats for you guys. Is money a male thing? Let's look at it. Investment banking is made up of 87.6% men. The finance industry overall is about 65% male. So in a way, money has historically been dominated by men. Now, I don't think there's a conspiracy theory of men not hiring women. That's not what I'm saying. We're not looking for victim mentality here. But I actually do see it firsthand that men are better at negotiating than women, that men make more than women often, even with a similar skill set. That's partial negotiation. And that men, when they are in a deal, let's say arguing for a business to buy, they typically close the deal faster and at better terms than women. Now, these are gross generalizations, but we've put 5,000 people through business buying content, and this is what I have seen. These business buyers that we have over time, the women need a little bit more coaching to how to push back. One of the most important things, if you guys are ever going to do a deal or buy a business, is you've got to actually be tough. Just today, I was on the phone with this company that we're doing a deal with. It's driving me up the wall. And I think maybe one of the reasons I've been successful as a woman in business is really just this. I'm a little tough. So, if a news article comes out that says Codie's tough on employees and at this company they work a lot, I'd be like, yeah, that is all true. I don't try to hide any of that and pretend it's this touchy-feely place. It's not. This company is here for you to get better. And people who are here leave and they say, I'm so glad I came. I got better. Or they stay forever because they want to keep getting better. But people don't come here because they want to chill. This is not a chill place. And so this person that we are doing a deal with, like, is delaying. And I finally, which happens often in deals, I finally had to go to my guy who's negotiating this deal for us and kind of read him the riot act and said, like, give them a timeline. This creates timeliness, so a constraint. You have 24 hours to sign this deal or we're pulling it. Second, give them a reason why you're unhappy about what happened. We've done X, Y, and Z for you. You can't sign this one document as a show of good faith. If you can't sign this one document as a good show of faith for everything we've done for you, we got to walk. You understand that, right? We've met you more than halfway and you're still staying at the starting line. Opt out. Number 3, be direct. No, like, well, do you see, I kind of think how I feel is maybe if no, it's, this is what we said the deal terms were. This is when the date needs to be signed by. You either do this or we're out. Wish you well, but not with us. And that is really hard for people to do. I was fighting with the guys on my team. I'm like, go harder or I'll call them. And if you want to make money, you got to be tough. And so I think a lot of times as women, we're taught to be soft and kind, as that's a more feminine trait, like flowing, more creative. And truthfully, in business, that's just not how it works. And there are going to be many times where you have to have incredibly difficult conversations. And I think as women, we got to get way better at that. And dudes are already pretty good at that. Okay, next question. How do you manipulate Cody, so me, into giving me a shot? How do you ask a rich person to take a chance on you? Real secret hack? If you want to get a rich person or a famous person to take you under their wing, teach you everything that they know, and steal all their homework, go for the rich person, not the famous person. Famous people have too much time, too much attention. They're the super hot girl at the bar surrounded by a bunch of dudes. Forget them. Don't try to go to Cody. Go to the guy on your street who has the biggest house, knock on his door, introduce yourself, and say, I'm young and trying to figure out my career. You have an incredible looking house. I would love to take you to coffee and talk to you about how you became so successful. You're going to have way more success with that guy than the famous person. Also, the thing about famous people is typically, they're at a stage of their career where they are still in it. They're still trying to build themselves. Once you get to somebody who's a little bit older, who's been in the game a long time, they're starting to think about legacy, not income. You want to find your mentors when they're focused on legacy. So if you come to 65-year-old Cody or maybe 70-year-old Cody, I'll probably be slowing down. I'm not going to be running so much. I'm not going to have so many meetings. I'm probably not doing more deals. I'm managing the deals that I got. You could come to me at that stage and be like, can you teach me about XYZ? And I might be less relevant and less people are asking me. So that feels really good to me. So your target market for a rich mentor to teach you everything is older, quiet, non-famous, and probably doing something kind of boring. You're looking for the guy who owns the sprinkler company. You're looking for the guy who owns, the cattle company. They're not on the internet. They're not on Twitter, but they want to leave a legacy. And that's what you would do. Now, here's how to really not get a response from somebody famous that you really want to get to online. You want to know how to not get a response? It's this. Hey, Cody, I would love to do anything you need. Please tell me how I can help. Now, why? Because what are you actually doing? You're giving me homework. I don't know you. I don't know what you're good at. I don't know if I should trust you. And you're asking me what you can do for me, and I got to go figure it out. Already a bad idea. Instead, what you'd want to do is you'd want to reach out and say, hey, I noticed on your website that you had these 3 errors. I highlighted them, cleaned them up. I shot them to your team. The website looks great, by the way. The rest of it looks great. Just sending you these 3 things. Small little interaction. Oh, that's nice. The guy didn't even ask me for anything, but he cleaned up 3 things on the website. Perfect. Then I might, when I respond and say thank you, I might then ask something and say, hey, I also noticed X. You're going to do another thing for them. I noticed this news article that I thought would be relevant for you. This graph would probably be great for an Instagram reel for you. Man, I found this boring business. Is this something that you guys like to buy? Just one thing. And then when you do that, you might say, also, is there a book that you like for somebody who's young or hungry or hasn't figured out money yet? Is there one book that you think I should read? Then you're going to do the rarest of things. You're going to read the book. You're going to read the article or whatever the person tells you to do. And after you do, you're going to reach out again, super light touch. Hey, I read that book. It was amazing. Here are my 3 favorite parts. I had one question about this. Now, what are you doing? This is like how you slowly start to date a woman, right? You don't come in guns blazing, asking her to marry you or sleep with you, you dirty dogs. What do? You go like slow and steady. Okay. So, hey, how are you? It's nice to meet you. Tell me about you. That's what you're doing here. You're soft selling your way to them caring about you. And after you do that a period of time, I usually like to have the 10x rule, which means that I give 10 times before I ask for anything real in return. 10-to-1 ratio. So after you've given 10 times, you might say, hey, I've noticed that copywriting looks like something you guys need more of. Would you be open to me sending you a few projects? I could send it to somebody on your team and seeing if I could be a good copywriting fit for you. And I might say yes. Or if you want to do even one better, you go, here is a copywriting project for you that I did explicitly for you. Let me know if you think this is good. I'm happy to do more for you. That's what I would do. This is one. When you're interviewing people, what are the red flags and what are the best things I can do to get your attention? 3 red flags when you're interviewing. Do not do this or you will not get hired. 1, say that something was everybody else's fault and not yours. This is called victim mentality. Even if your last boss was a sadist who you hated, who was a complete idiot, here's what I want you to do instead. Say, you know what? I left the last company because I wanted to keep growing and I had reached the limit on the ideas that I could generate there and get them heard up the ladder. So what I'm looking for in my next space is somewhere I can learn a ton, that I can give some input and that I can get feedback from. So what are you saying under the table there? Well, if you're listening, it's like, oh, she wasn't getting listened to. That annoyed her. She wasn't getting feedback to be better, and she wasn't continuing to learn. So I'm asserting the reasons why you left, but you're not saying, I really disagreed with my boss. I didn't like how the CEO ran the business. He was a dick. This happened. No, we're not going to do that. That's 1, don't play victim. Instead, be positive about your last place, even if it was a hellhole. Second red flag is not knowing anything about my company that you're interviewing for. Please do some homework. Your questions, even if you don't want to ask them, should be something like, hey, I noticed that you guys just bought a couple of window cleaning companies, specifically Pinks. Why did you buy that business? What are you showing me there? 1, you're paying attention to what we're doing. 2, you're trying to find out how we work and what type of businesses to look for us. Great question. The third thing that you should never do in an interview is come without something to give. So even when you're in an interview and you're not getting paid, you might not get the job. I love when people bring me an idea. And so you should come into the interview and say, hey, I don't know if this is useful, but I was starting to think about the business and what I might add or do differently. And I wanted to bring you these 2 or 3 ideas. This was famously popularized by James Altucher, who used to do these little diner takeout notes. And every single time that he got a chance, if he got to engage with the CEO of Google, he might even go to the CEO of Google and say, hey, I wrote 10 ideas down that I thought would be cool for Google. I don't know, use these or don't, but I have some for you. And so I love that. It actually doesn't take much time and it shows something really positive. 1, you're a giver. 2, you have an abundance mindset. You're like, I got so many ideas. I'm just going to give them to you for free. And then 3, it also shows that you care about this. You're like, no matter what, even if I don't get this job, I want you guys to do better. And so you're showing that live. I love that. How do you get ownership in the company you work for? If you perform, how do you get a piece of the pie? I learned firsthand from the CEO that I used to work for, Jim Bowen at First Trust, that almost any company will give employees a percentage of the business if they're valuable enough. If you're not getting a percentage of the business right now, you're not valuable enough. What does that mean? It means that the company can continue to run and grow without you. It means that you are replaceable in the business. And it means you don't actually understand your value or how much money you make the company, because if you understood that, you could negotiate for a piece of the company or a piece of other companies in the ecosystem. This should be really freeing, because what you're basically saying is, if I do these 3 things, I can position myself in order to get equity in this business. And even the biggest businesses in the world, Goldman Sachs, Vanguard, they offer profit sharing, or they offer equity deals, or they offer warrants. Small businesses offer equity. They offer warrants. They offer an ability to invest in the company. So if you hear a little voice in the back of your mind saying, I could never get equity at my company ever, there's two things that are true. One, you're not valuable enough yet. You can become valuable enough. And then two, you might be at the wrong company, at which point you should change. Every single employee at my companies will have an ability to earn in or invest into one of our companies, but they don't get it for an entire year. So your entire first year here, we're not even talking about it. Would you marry somebody before a first year of knowing them? I hope not. So I don't marry any of my employees either. Two, every employee at the company, if they are valuable enough, has a potential for it, but they've got to make sure that they actually are valuable and they're going to travel through time with me. One of the cool things too, if you have a company that I like to do, is really celebrate when people get equity. Like make a big deal about it, because it is a big deal. That is showing that I am tied for you the entire time we run this company. So Jim at First Trust used to do this entire presentation where it would be like, all about how great this person is, all about the stuff that they've done for the business, all about the value that they've provided for the business, and then a big congratulation. And it was an also expectation that not everybody gets that. Why? Because the CEO has the ultimate skin in the game. They're the ones putting in the cash. They're the ones on the line and can lose everything if the business goes sideways. So equity is never an expectation. Equity is earned. How about this one? Can I get rich if I just have a salary? Yes, you can get rich if you just have a salary. But there's a caveat. You are going to have a hard time getting rich with only salary. So the smartest people in the world know that it is something else. Sundar Pichai at Google did not become worth hundreds of millions of dollars from his Google salary. What did he become worth hundreds of millions of dollars from? His stock options and his distributions. So this is a really important caveat. Salary is taxed at the highest level. The government loves when you're salaried and you make a ton of money. If you get stock options and distributions, those are taxed at a lower level. It's called long-term capital gains. And so over time, the smartest, richest people move their salary. So they take less money every single year guaranteed, and they take more money in the form of bonuses. So if you are smart and you love your job and you want to stay at your job, start trying to figure out how to move straight salary to bonus, equity, or distributions. That's the key. Somebody asked me, okay, what can I do if I want to buy a business, but I have no money? There's 4 things you can do. 1, you can get other people's money, right? So this is a cash transaction, but not with your own. That could be loans, that could be SBA, that could be raising third-party capital. So that's one leg of the table. 2 is expertise. You could actually know a lot about podcast producing. And so if you came onto a podcast, you ask for a little cut of the upside, you ask for a little cut of profits or revenue, you ask for equity in the business, you're a pro, you're going to materially affect the outcome for the podcast. So they're going to give you some equity in the business. So that's expertise. The 3rd is sweat equity, which is just like, I am going to beat my head against the wall. I'm going to do all the work. I'm going to take off all the tasks you don't want to. And for that, I want to be compensated for my time and effort. That is for lower level if you don't have any cash and you don't have any expertise. And the 4th that not enough people talk about is structuring. This is knowledge. So structuring means, do I know how to deal make enough that I can structure a transaction that allows me to get part of a business without anything else? And that is really how the smartest deal makers do it. We also are going to teach that in the 3-day if you guys come. I think the difference between a good deal and a bad deal is 2 things. You can't do a good deal with a bad guy. So it's got to be a good guy that you're doing a deal with. And second, it's really hard to control the price if you don't control the terms, which means structuring is ultimately how you make money. And we're going to dive more into that. It's super, super important. This question: what do you do if you're lost and you don't know how to get to the next level of the game? The number one reason why people fail is they don't move fast enough. And I don't mean that you have to sprint continuously. I mean, you have to start taking action. For instance, right now, I really don't have a lot of time on my calendar. And for basically the last 3 months of 2024, I was slacking on going to the gym. I just had every excuse in the book for why I couldn't get in there for an hour, and that was bothering me. So my husband, Chris, said something to me that stuck finally. He said, What if you were the type of person who brushed their teeth every day? And I was like, I do brush my teeth every day. That sounds disgusting. Why would I not do that? He goes, exactly. Brushing your teeth is part of who you are. You don't even think about it. It's a habit. It's ingrained with you. You brush your teeth every day. I'm like, yes, I do. He's like, what if you did that exact same thing with working out? What if you were just the type of person that worked out every single day and you couldn't imagine a day in which you didn't work out? And then I said, well, I have 2 minutes to brush my teeth, but 2 minutes of working out is not going to be sufficient. And he said, what happens if you just get there? Just get there every single day. And so I started to. I speed to acted every single day. First thing in the morning, I get up, I go to the gym. Even if I only have 20 minutes at the gym, I go. Even if I only want to do 5 minutes at the gym, I go. Now, what ends up happening once you get there, usually you have a little bit more time to do more, but there have been multiple days where I'm like, fuck it, I got 10 minutes, but I'm the type of person that brushes my teeth every day. And that speed to action or movement is so important. So I think if you're not where you want to be, it's probably because you're not moving fast enough in the direction of the thing that you want. And the cool thing about that is speed it's equal. All of us can move at the same speed. All of us have inherently the same speed inside of us. It's just do we choose to use it or not? Where do you find businesses to buy? There's 3 places to find businesses to buy. There's on-market deals. That's where you go to a website like BizScout and you go and search businesses that are available for sales right now, just like Zillow or MLS. You go on there and you comb through all businesses available to buy. Then there's off-market deals, which means that you either scrape the website. We also have that at BizScout, but you scrape websites, you go and Google search these businesses individually, and you find businesses that aren't listed and you start cold calling them, right? Just like you would somebody you're trying to sell something. The third way that you find businesses to buy is what I call your center of influence strategy. So basically you're looking like, who do I know? Who am I around who has a business that's small enough that I might want to own? Can I talk to them? And this is really just like a door knocking strategy. Like every time you go to your ice cream shop, every time you go to your corner store, every time you go to your local coffee shop, you're talking to the owner and seeing what's up and seeing if they'd ever consider buying. Those are the 3 ways to buy a business, at least in my mind. How do you have a product that people keep buying again and again? This is also how Chamath Palihapitiya became a billionaire. He became a billionaire off of one thing. It was called the 7 friends rule. So Chamath Palihapitiya was at Facebook, and he was trying to figure out this problem, which is when we get people at Facebook in the early days, how do we get them to stay forever? How do we have 0 churn or high retention? And they were going through this problem, and he found this one thing that changed everything. He was like, wait a second. If I get somebody to come to Facebook and they find 7 of their friends, or they bring 7 other friends with them, but they connect with 7 people in 1 week, they never leave. So all I have to do is focus on little mini spheres and making sure if I find one person, I bring their friends along with them. This single thing made Chamath a billionaire. This is true in almost every business. Almost every business has what I call the one data point. There's one data point that if you could figure this out, everything else would be easier. Truth of the matter, when you're building a business, it's almost always referrals. It's called product-led growth as opposed to marketing-led growth. Typical businesses, they grow because they market. I have a lot of businesses like this, by the way, guys, and it's really hard to change from one to the other. I have a lot of businesses where we do a lot of marketing and sales for them because we don't have our retention loop nailed. We haven't found our one data point yet. And so we haven't built into the product the ability to refer people, a reason why to refer people, a reason why people never want to leave. But the problem with that is essentially if you're a marketing or sales-led company, what are you? You're a leaky bucket. You're like constantly leaking out users. Instead, you kind of want to act like your first customer might be the only customer you ever get. How do you get somebody great to partner with you in business or in life? I think we're constantly being interviewed by potential partners. We're being interviewed by friends who know somebody great, but they're not sure they should introduce us. We're being interviewed by colleagues who are going to go to a new company and decide the 3 or 4 people that they're going to take with them. And whether you're a badass or not will determine if they grab you or not. We're getting interviewed by potential people we want to do deals with as they find a great deal, but aren't sure that you're the one because you're kind of a taker or you're not doing enough. I think every interaction we have is a little interview for a future opportunity we don't even realize is coming. And so the way I try to show up in the world is really honestly and really with a lot of hard work showing at all times. The number one reason why startups fail isn't that they don't find product market fit or they run out of cash, it's that the founders give up. And so if you're thinking about how to find somebody who's great, show them that you're not a person that gives up. Show a consistency of keeping after something and winning. And that's how you get a great partner, whether that be a partner in love or a partner in business. All right, let's do one more question here. Actually, let's do two. What was the moment you were most afraid and how did you get over it? My biggest fear in life is that I won't achieve what I want to achieve in life, that I'm not as capable as I think that I am, that I might fail publicly and everybody gets to go, I told you so, that I'm not as smart as I think that I am. It's all about like self-worth and am I able to achieve these things? It's not death. It's not pain. It's not struggle. It's not finding love. It's like, am I good enough at whatever game I'm trying to play? That's when I get most scared. And so, the scariest thing for me sometimes is like, man, what if all my businesses fail? Here I am on the internet talking all the time about all this stuff I know in business. What if one of them fails? What if they fail publicly? What if I was super wrong and then I get it rubbed in my face? That really scares me for some reason. It's like a core, visceral fear. When I wake up in the middle of the night and I have those dreams that we all have that are our biggest nightmares, that's it. It's like, oh man, what if this doesn't work? And because I know that's my fear, I've really only been able to get over it two ways. And that is every time I have that big fear in front of me, I ask myself, one, what would I do to remedy this? So I immediately write out actions because actions make me feel safe. They're like a little blanket against the cold. So I go, well, if this wasn't working, here's what I'd do. Here's who I'd talk to. Here's how I'd hire. Here's whatever. So I write down a list of like 10 or 15 things. And then the second thing that I do is I ask myself, how reasonable is that? And then I write down like, well, it's probably not reasonable because we have all these businesses and this would have to happen and then this would have to happen. And so I start making sure that my body and mind knows, hey, I'm listening to you. I'm aware there's risks in what we do, but I have a plan if it goes sideways. And that's not really that reasonable of a thing to say. And so when you have action, plus you have reality checks, I think you end up stressing a lot less. Let's end with this. Why did I become a content creator or come online? And why is that something that might be worth it for you? I think that there's 4 types of leverage. The original form of leverage was labor. This is workers, slaves back in the day. The second form of leverage was capital. So this is when the banking institutions were created. That's when all the Rothschilds and the big titans of industry were created. 3 is code. That's how Elon and Jeff Bezos and everybody standing behind Trump in the election day, they made most of their money through labor, the least, capital, the second least, and code foremost. And then I think the 4th type of leverage today is attention. And if you see those people today, why would Elon buy Twitter or X now? One, I think he truly believes that he was saving free speech, but also because he is now the news. He is now our attention. He is our audience. Think about it. The other guy standing up there was who? Zuckerberg, who owns Instagram and Facebook. Our time, our attention. Who else was standing up there? Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google. Why? Because they own our attention when we search for things online and they get to direct us to the answers to our question. Who else was a part of the inauguration? Sam Altman, who is the 21st century version of Google with OpenAI, which now we're going into to ask things to. Who else owns our attention? Well, that would be Jeff Bezos, because when we go to search for things that we need and take action on buying them, where do we do that? Oh, well, that's Amazon. And so all of them have labor, capital, code, and attention. And today more than ever, I think attention is critical. And so one of the reasons I got online is because our businesses need the lifeblood of the 21st century highest form of leverage, which is attention. That's why I think it's very silly when people say, well, if you were really good at buying businesses, you wouldn't be on the internet. Well, if Oprah was really good at psychology, she wouldn't have made the O network. That's silly. Well, if Elon was really good at building rockets, he wouldn't have spent time on X. What? That's dumb. Why do we do these things? Because this is the highest form of leverage that there is. And because, and you should pay a lot of attention to this, our most precious thing that you and I have, like deeper than anything else, is our time. Unless Brian Johnson figures out how to not have us die, and he might, we don't get it back. And so because of that, we got to be really careful around who we let into our earbuds, who we let into our brains, because they infect us with their beliefs and their contagion. That's why I think it's so critical that you listen to people who help you believe you can do things, as opposed to people who tell you why you can't and put you down. Get away from those people. They are cancerous and they're everywhere. And they sound smart because pessimists sound smart and optimists make money. And so part of the reason that I am on the internet too is to get to people like you, for us to have a conversation and me to say, don't listen to these fucks. You're capable of more than you think. If you work harder than you feel you want to, for longer than you think you need to, you can probably have a totally different life this year than you did last year. And if any of that is interesting, you should join us at the 3-day event at contrarianthinking.co. I want to create more owners in this country, and I think it starts with you. All right, until next time.